You go to my Twitter page right now at Niko CSFB. But in all seriousness, as a dope pick with Tulsi. Tulsi's amazing. Me personally, I have my own YouTube channel, which most of you probably already know. Obviously, I have Twitter and all that good stuff. I was the founder of Carolina Students for Bernie Sanders and the president, obviously. And then I was a president of North Carolina Colleges for Bernie Sanders. Because of some rigging that I had discovered, to make a long story short, that's how I found Jared and Elizabeth Beck. I was hired to their super PAC to actually investigate the rigging that was happening all over the country. From those findings, we were able to construct the DNC fraud lawsuit, which is currently in the 11th Circuit Federal Appellate Court, where we did something that's damn near impossible, which is being a political case going through an appeal. Any case going through an appeal is 7% chance of even getting to that point. So when you get to the appeals process, the chance of your case being heard, even in part in the discovery, is extremely high. So we got through the appeals process. Now we're waiting to hear back to hear which part of our case will be heard in the discovery. And so that's a pretty big deal. Other than that, I've spoke I was a surrogate for Jill Stein's campaign. I worked on Bernie Sanders' campaign, spoke at a few of his events. I just spoke at Tulsi's event in LA, recently endorsed her. She's amazing. And basically now what I do is I try to do, an objective level of journalism. Even though I'm a progressive, anybody who's been on my channel can tell you, I wasn't down with the whole Trump derangement syndrome. I knew that was just a ploy to ignore what was obviously happening in 2016, which was not only election rigging, but an attempt to draw attention away from some big things that were happening. Very Machiavellian type of tactic that was employed by the DNC and the Clinton cabal, which was the Uranium One deal was the Russian collusion. It was beyond that. I mean, it was like I laugh because it's like, oh, let's see Trump's tax returns. Let's see Bernie's tax returns. I'm like, bruh, if we looked at the Clinton Foundation's tax returns, what will we even be having this discussion right now? So that's basically what I do. I just try to unveil truth however I can, and be as objective as possible. Even though I am personally a progressive, I do always try to find the logical conclusion rather than the sensationalized one.
Awesome. Yeah. And I have a lot of respect for you and people like Jared Beck, because you guys actually did something with the DNC fraud lawsuit. That's taking physical action. I feel like a lot of problems on both sides is people just talk. So, when you go out and do something, especially that, and call it out, people like you and Jimmy Dore, although I disagree on some domestic issues, it's clearly a huge step ahead of the people who are just towing party lines and can't really tell the truth if life depended on it. And like you said, the most crazy part about all that is the same people that are accusing Trump and others of collusion and working with Assad. And it's like they're so guilty of all this stuff times 10,000. It's ridiculous. First thing I wanted to talk about, because I was curious before and we chatted before you came on, is I was like, is Nikko going to support Bernie or Tulsi Gabbard? And I want to ask you that. And also, where do you think progressives are at? Because you have a good scope on kind of the big progressive base, which is very huge. I consider it the heart and soul of the left. The establishment might have more people and the television, the celebrities, but I feel like they don't really have any passion and movement that's going to last very long. It's all based on false realities. So the progressive wing, which is further left probably than the liberals, whether you like it or not, they really are the energy. So who are you supporting, Tulsi or Bernie or anyone else? And who do you think the progressive base is supporting?
So I just want to say you're absolutely correct about the mainstream. The mainstream is no longer as influential as they would like. Probably has a lot to do with the fact that most of their audience is the average age of 60. And that's probably why their viewership has dropped substantially since the 2016 election, really. But me personally, I endorsed Tulsi Gabbard last week in LA while I was introducing her it was a church in downtown LA, very famous church. A lot of political events are held there. But essentially, I endorse Tulsi. At this very moment, I am voting for Tulsi. Now, I'm once again not disillusioned. Bernie Sanders is the godfather of the progressive movement. And that is it's undeniable, indisputable. Now, whether or not he is more progressive than Tulsi, however, is to be debated. And it is a necessary debate to have, because I personally, given all the facts, and this is somebody who literally, you've seen the picture. I love Bernie to death. I know his family personally. I've had private meetings with Bernie. I love where his heart is. But at the end of the day, I'm a very pragmatic person and I'm very policy driven. And I'm very fact driven. Tulsi is objectively more progressive. Now, because of that fact, and not only that, she has cross ideological appeal. In other words, she appeals to libertarians. She appeals to conservatives, the isolationist conservatives. She even appeals to quote unquote national, not white nationalists, but actual nationalists who believe in putting America first, because her policies ensure that America stays intact, not only economically, but socially as well. Because we don't want, I mean, when you have displacement of other people across the world, you're going to go to the place where it's safest, which is behind the barrel of the gun, not in front of it. So the base, however, is still largely for Bernie. And if we're being blatantly honest about it, as great as Bernie is, his history is not perfect. And it's a fact. Anything that you could say Tulsi did in the past, I can damn near say Bernie did the same thing, if not worse, for a longer period of time. For example, they said Tulsi voted on the military, the budget increases. And that's true. The problem is, or here's the reason why, if I'm a veteran, and I am a veteran, it's very hard for me to justify voting against a military budget that would possibly put more money in the pockets of veterans, put more money in the pockets of retirees, put more money in the pockets of soldiers right now who are on food stamps. Absolutely. If you're a veteran, you're not escaping that. You will get pounded into the ground, even if the reason you're voting against the budget is legitimate. You get what I'm saying? Now, Bernie, 1,000%. Yeah, but Bernie, on the other hand, for example, he voted against. He only voted for 2 military budgets since 2013. But here's the problem: he voted to bomb or to invade Kosovo. He voted to bomb Gaza at the behest of Israel, and we learned a lot of the things that were coming out of Israel were lies. He's voted for sanctions against Russia and other measures to punish them for the Russiagate narrative, which was also wrong. The problem with Bernie has been, even though you voted against military budgets, in my humble opinion, that's just merely nominal. If you don't understand why those budgets are being increased, why they're so large, and what they're being used for, and how consent is being manufactured in order to utilize those budgets, then you voting against that budget doesn't do anything, because as you can see, we're still in Venezuela, we're still in Syria, we're still trying to manufacture consent to go to war with Iran. And so, in my opinion, you can look at the recent history and you can look at the long history, but I like to look at the logic behind why someone's doing something. And the logic shows that when Tulsi learns something, she applies it and she grows from it. And she's not a monolith. She's very fluid in her experiences and her understanding of the world. And in my opinion, that's something we need as a president. Anybody who could sit here in front of a camera on mainstream after leaving the vice chair position of the DNC, look at, they say, oh, well, what do you think about the people who are going, what about the backlash from leaving the Democratic National Committee? And she looked straight at that camera and said, the Clintons don't scare me. No one has ever said that in the public eye, So that lets you know, in my opinion, that Tulsi had something that really can't be quantified, but it is something that most Americans, once she hits that debate stage, will relate to.
Absolutely. I'm anti-war, anti-regime change war, but thinking about it even before, when I was more left-leaning, you got to be tactical about it, because China's real, Russia's real, Israel's real, and there's also the reality of how cold the world is. So I'm not super big in slashing the budget unless, like you said, people need to be paid. And also, we do need a strong presence. We just don't need to be invading, in my personal perspective, and doing that type of stuff. So I'm not so much anti-budget. I understand it's huge, and I wish we could spend it on other things. I think even in California, we have the money. We just don't know how to spend it. So that's not bad.
That is the primary problem with the military budget. It's that most of that money is going to pockets of 5 to 10 individuals. And they're not going to this. A lot of it isn't going to the soldiers like it said it's supposed to be.
Yeah, even in Cali, like I pay taxes here now, so I'm extra about it. We have the highest taxes, one of the biggest economies, but still the most poverty. So it's not, the problem isn't that we don't have money in government. We go through billions like it's cotton candy, and they just don't know how to spend it. So I
It's
agree with
true.
you there. His her past. We'll start foreign before we go domestic and stuff. Her past is, I think, better than Bernie's, and also where he really lost me, and where she's picking up a lot of right wingers, including nationalists. To be honest, even white nationalists of the most extreme, even David Duke supported her. And and this is not, I'm not smearing her on that.
No, I know what you.
The
Yeah,
reason he did so is because he's actually, very anti-Israel and he's into foreign policy. So I always look for, I'm like, yeah, I get it. He supported Trump at one time. He supported Tulsi, but you still,
he supported Hillary at one point. Like he just kind of David Duke is kind of all over the place. But
yeah,
I get
but
what
it's
you
like
mean
even
though.
that, I'm like, if you really look at why he does it, he's anti-regime change war, where it's like you can disagree with 9 out of 10 of his things, but I can't lie and say, oh, I'm pro-war now because he's anti-war. Where they tried to smear her
Mhm.
with that, and even the Assad stuff, saying it's a dictator, which was all awful. So, point I'm trying to get to is she appeals to a lot of different people for a lot of different reasons, just like Trump does. It's not like black and white, where it's like everyone likes him because of this. No, some people are anti-regime change. Some people like the economy. Some people are displaced workers. There's all sorts of stuff. But Tulsi, in my personal perspective, she's my favorite out of the left. She hasn't got my vote yet per se. But Bernie lying about the Russia collusion thing really sketched me out, and maybe that's why you're voting or you're supporting her too.
That's part of the reason. I'm not gonna lie. That is part of the reason. Yeah.
And he said on Twitter, and me, I feel extra compassionate. I won't say compassionate, but passionate rather about it, because I did support Bernie over Hillary. I thought he was a matrix breaker. He was going to break the system, and he was going to be that revolutionary. Honestly, that I feel like Trump is in many ways. That's why I liked him. It wasn't so much his domestic policy, but then afterwards, and I think you feel the same way, where he's just like, I think he had a tweet that said something along the lines of Hillary didn't just go up against Donald Trump. She went up against
Yeah.
Russia. And if you
Yeah, I
supported
did not
Bernie
like
and
that.
you and Jared Beck putting your well-being on the line to really go hard, and me, I quit my job and I worked for 6 7 months off the passion, literally losing money because I was so invested in this election, how much I loved it. And to see someone who really almost said nothing for us, I feel like when he lost, I get it. I gave him a few months. He's playing the game. But then when he starts defending the media, he starts saying that Russia beat Hillary. I'm like, dude, a lot of your supporters just don't like Hillary. Like, you don't understand that. So that's where he lost me. And it seems like Tulsi really gets that. And
Yeah.
also she's a veteran. She's more pragmatic. And I actually like her past that they're holding over her head, where they said that she was anti-gay marriage in her state. It's not because I'm anti-gay marriage myself. I just think her logic behind that was fine too. They tried to smear and say she's anti-LGBT.
She was 21 years old.
But also, yeah, Nikko,
And she personally, it was actually her dad that pushed her to have these stances. But she actually, since she's ever held elected office, has a 100% voting record on the LGBTQ
absolutely
issues.
no, that's what
So
I'm saying is what I like about that is even her logic then to me wasn't wrong. She was saying let the states decide. I still kind of feel that way because it's annoying to me for any religion or even group of people. I feel like part of the reason everyone's so unhappy, part of it, not everything, is that that's what states used to be. Like California is not supposed to be like Texas or Alabama. So you can't persecute somebody based on their sexuality, but I don't think that I thought that the fact that they made the whole federal do it, I don't know that it really, like I think her logic behind it wasn't like I hate gay people, which they're trying to say. I think she was like, let the states decide, and so
yeah.
I think they
So
kind of unnecessarily go.
when it comes to states' rights, which I am an advocate of, by the way, I think that we should actually we should be operating closer to what the European Union was supposed to originally be. And we were when the country was first conceived. However, I think it was Theodore Roosevelt who hyper federalized our government, got rid of militias, reduced delegate counts, limited the amount of people in Congress, which is supposed to be about 4,000 right now based off population. There isn't. And if there were 4,000, I bet you it would be a lot harder to pay off 4,000 people than 400 people. But the problem is I don't believe states should be allowed to restrict rights. And that's where I would probably diverge. I don't think that like you can say this person can get married. Are they both people? Are they both consenting adults? And are they both autonomous? Yes, yes, yes. Why shouldn't they be able to get married? I think that states should be able to grant more rights, but not necessarily restrict them. But it seems like the only time we are hearing about states' rights is oftentimes when they're trying to restrict someone from, in what I believe is a civil liberty. So, but as far as the Bernie aspect of it, I don't want to pretend like he isn't revolutionary, because I mean the whole game has changed, right? Let's be honest. Kamala Harris has to go around lying about the fact that she supposedly supports $15 minimum wage and Medicare for all. She doesn't. We know this. Hell, 2 years ago she wouldn't even say it, right? You have Beto O'Rourke. They're trying to get a young guy in now because because Bernie's taking too many of the millennials still. Tulsi Gabbard. The truth of the matter is, we love her. We don't have her if Bernie Sanders doesn't run in a revolutionary way. So even though there are some aspects of his campaign, or more so his rhetoric, I don't want to say his campaign, some aspects of his rhetoric that are anti or counter-revolutionary by definition, there are other aspects of his campaign that are in his rhetoric that are very much so revolutionary, like bringing on David Sirota, for example, who has been a harsh critic of Russiagate, right? Who has been a harsh critic of the establishment, who was in the participated in one of the Julian Assange vigils, even one of the ones that I was involved in, participated or was a strong advocate for Jill Stein. Bring on Joy Gray, same thing. Brianna Joy Gray, strong advocate and openly endorsed Jill Stein, anti-Russiagate. Same thing, anti-establishment, not Democrat nor Republican. So bringing Bree on as a national press secretary and David Sirota on as his speechwriter / advisor does let us know that, in my opinion, that, okay, a lot of what he was doing was ego driven. And he's finally learned to break down that ego and allow some truths that he hadn't experienced into his circle. And I think that it's even started to affect some of his rhetoric in certain ways, which we can get to in a little bit, a little bit later on down the line. Yeah. But I do agree with you, though. I do agree with you. The Russiagate nonsense, although I know, based off of what I know about the campaign and what his plans were, it's pragmatic. But at the end of the day, pragmatism can only get you so far in a revolution. Yeah. And that's just a fact. Pragmatism without bold and uncorruptible conviction is nothing. It fizzles. It doesn't yield a movement. It yields a temporary change, but eventually it will go back to the status quo, or return back to the status quo.
Absolutely. So, and in my perspective, it's miscalculated pragmatism, because I think he thought playing the safe route was going to help him, but I felt it was very disrespectful to all the people that really tried to help him out and took a lot of heat, and even some people losing jobs and, in my perspective, possibly even lives, trying to support Bernie Sanders. And I felt like even Donald Trump seemed like he supported Bernie Sanders more than he did himself, where Bernie's like, I'm going to take the safe route. And this is a problem all politicians are having, from Mitt Romney to McCain to Bernie, where Trump really changed that game. And I will agree with you that Bernie totally changed the game. We'll get into that in a second. I'm not sure that it's the direction I want to go, but he changed the game and Trump did. And now people like Bernie, they don't know what to do, but I love it, because what I liked about Bernie wasn't so much his policies. We'll probably debate those in a little bit. It was the fact I felt like he was breaking the matrix, the two-party system. They're both sold out. They both want to start the same wars. They're both lying. I'm like, I'm so over it. Roll the dice, break the chain. That's what I feel like Trump did. He's not the be all end all, but he did that. He nonstop goes at the media. And to me, on a psychological level, I feel like that's huge, because I do think it's literal mind control. They tell you what to buy. They tell you to wear. They put these fake puppets.
So I would have to disagree with you, I guess, technically 50%. So Trump does constantly go at the media. However, he doesn't go at Fox News. He never critiques Fox News, ever. I've been looking for it. The only time he could critique Fox News was before he got elected, when they thought that he wasn't going to do the bidding of the 1%. But because of things like the tax cut, because of the bombing of Syria and even the coup of Venezuela and how much he's propped up Benjamin Netanyahu, they're like, oh, actually, we do love him. And because they show him love, he definitely capitulates to the base and is even seemingly voting or endorsing the rank and file policies of the Republican Party So I think that at one point I do believe at one point he was far and away outside of the establishment. And I think that originally he intended to be that. But let's be honest. Trump is a corrupt businessman. There's no such thing as an innocent billionaire.
Let's go point by point because you cut me off.
Mm-hmm.
So all right, so with Fox News, the television, it's entirely now establishment left. Entirely, except for Fox
Hold
News.
up, except for Fox News. Oh, okay.
Except for Fox News, the entire station, and even on Fox, on CNN, you're not going to find anybody right wing, not even close.
No, they do. They bring them on.
As a guest, but not as a host. On
okay.
Fox, Fox, they have Shep Smith, and they're starting to have even liberals. So the one station out of maybe 100 that leans right still has left-leaning people who have hosts, and the left-leaning people who own 95% of the television don't even have a right-leaning host. So there's that. There's also let me go. I'm not a fan of Fox. They show me no love. They've never had me on. I think it's all fear mongering, and I think they sell pharmacy pills in the commercials. I can't stand it. But
I mean, no disagreements.
Where does Glenn Greenwald go? Where do progressives go to get a fair shake in the media? They can't go to CNN. They can't go to MSNBC. They go to Tucker Carlson. He's the only one who will have them on, or some other people on Fox sometimes. But
no debate there.
Yeah, so it's like that's the only home of truth. And Trump, when you're looking at a television, you're smashing the media. He's calling them out. He's calling how fake New York Times and Washington Post, who are very deep state media. They have a huge agenda. Others do as well. I don't disagree with you, but if you're a guy in the office and there's only 5% of the television giving you love, and even in that 5%, 1% is now becoming establishment liberal, it's almost like a disease where it's like you're like, dude, that's his home. That's why I don't think it's out of, and I'll agree with you, certain things that he does where I'm like, he's definitely finessing the system. Like, here, I'll give you this. In Syria, he absolutely dropped bombs, but he also freed them from terrorists. Before Trump was in office, there's terrorists all over their major cities. Now they're completely gone.
No, they're back. They're back because we came back, actually. That's that. And then he
disallowed. He
disallowed
there's no ISIS is completely eradicated from 3 years ago to now. It's no question how it's safer.
No, okay, so I'm not gonna say it's not safer because I can't debate that, but I can say for a fact we didn't even pull out any of the troops until at the end of last year. So and then once we pulled out the majority of the troops, by the way, not all of them, the troops that Obama originally put there are still there.
That's a different.
Well, hold on, let me finish though. But the ones that Trump put in, he removed, but didn't remove the rest of the troops. But the problem with that is once he removed those troops, he then he signed an executive order that disallows the Pentagon from relinquishing the number of troops that he surges in subsequently. So even if he put in more troops right now, he disallowed the Pentagon from relinquishing that information. Like, that's the problem. And he's actually dropped more bombs across the board on Syria than Obama did. So like I said, in the beginning, when he wanted to pull out the CIA, I was cheering for him. I was like, wow, that's a big deal. They're going to come hard at him. And I imagine there's going to be another chemical attack within the next couple of days. And, as you know, that's exactly what happened. I do believe that he was trying to do the right thing in Syria. Like, I believe he was trying to do the right thing in Korea.
Let's go topic by topic before we throw out too many things. All right, so the troops in Syria, that has nothing to do with how safe it is. I'm not disagreeing that he didn't take troops out, but Syria is freed. He overturned and the CIA thing you're talking about, he overturned $1 billion CIA program of funding rebels. That's absolutely why.
That was 2 years ago, but then he surged.
But hear me out. Look at the map of Syria. You had ISIS literally controlling Damascus, controlling major cities. They were everywhere. Trump did drop more bombs, but the difference is during Obama's administration, 8 years of bombs and ISIS is gaining territory. That's not a mistake. You have the biggest military, which is us. They don't have an air force or a navy. Somehow they're expanding. It's all by design. Trump cut the funding. He actually bombed the right people. And now Syria is free. Are there troops there? Absolutely. Is he
free? What do you mean they're free? What do you mean they're free? I'm trying to understand what that means.
Talk to people in Syria. They went from
my friends,
their cities were infiltrated by ISIS, and they had a bigger war.
I do talk to people in Syria. Like, I know some of my best friends growing up, because I grew up so I graduated from UNC. I don't know if you're familiar with the incident that happened there where the three people, the married couple and the sister, were killed. the guy Dia was Syrian. Like, I know the history of Syria and all that good stuff, and I know people who still
Well,
live
here's what I'm
there.
saying. The
That's why I'm
truth,
trying to understand what you mean
yeah,
by free. What do you mean
it's
by free?
all right. It's safer. There's less war, and still, I think Israel and people send in missiles every now and then. They're definitely still conflicting, but there's a difference from having terrorist groups taking over your entire cities. Like entire cities were completely co-opted. You could look at.
Yeah, I'm aware.
So
Yeah.
now they're pretty much non-existent. So the battle went from a proxy war of like 7 different people and terrorist organizations controlling the entire city, who are every bit as bad. It's like obviously Israel and the United States are up to some nonsense. You have Russia and Iran who's in there, but ISIS really was spreading chaos in cities, and they're completely gone. So now the war's
But
gone
they're
from a total.
but I'm telling you, factually speaking, they're not completely gone. Like Syria news reports that it's not complete. Now there was a point where they were completely gone. Ironically enough, when we pulled out the majority of our troops, and funny enough, Russia was allowed to do what they said they were there for, which was destroy and eradicate ISIS. Then ISIS was gone. But then we came back. We came up with another excuse.
When do you think that happened though? Because a week or two ago, that's when they're pretty much non-existent. And I mean, I don't know who your sources are, but I'm
Well,
like, I
a week or
ask
two
them,
ago, they also said that
are,
ISIS was in Golan Heights, which is part of Syria. And Trump just gave Golan, and he used as part of the excuse to give Golan Heights to Netanyahu so they can protect Syria. Yeah, right. Like they give a shit about that. Like
no,
it's hard for me to believe that like ISIS is eradicated in an area that if we're still involved there, there are still terrorists there because we fund the terrorists. Like that.
yeah, but he stopped doing that though. That's the revolutionary things that progressives don't give
When
Trump
did
credit
that
for.
happen? Well, how did he stop? What
A
executive
year and a
order was
half
that?
ago, he stopped funding the rebels. Tulsi was on CNN and she said, listen, Jake
I
Tapper,
remember.
the rebels, they're not really rebels. And Trump said the same thing. He cut the funding. It's all over mainstream media. They just didn't pump it that much. Once he cut the funding, that's absolutely why everything settled
I
down.
need to see what executive order. I don't disbelieve that he cut funding initially, but he reignited the. So remember when him and Tulsi were actually working in tandem at one point in the beginning of his term, when Steve Bannon was there, actually he was cutting funding at that point. And then what happened was they kept Tulsi out of the Oval Office, stopped letting him speak to her, actually fired Steve Bannon because he's an isolationist. I don't like Steve Bannon, but that was the only good quality about him, was that he was an isolationist. Tulsi then had to introduce, because Trump wouldn't stop funding the damn terrorists, the Stop Funding / Stop Arming Terrorists Act, which didn't even get past it got past committee. However, it got struck down.
In
And
Congress.
so but we still kept, after that, we still continue to fund terrorists. Tulsi actually just gave a speech literally in the area. She gave a speech literally the other day, maybe last week. I think I did a video about it, where she talks about this. It's still going on. Like, it's still happening. I may concede, because I'm not living in Syria, that it may be slightly de-escalated, but because we did pull troops out. But at the end of the
massively
day,
de-escalated. Here's the difference between Trump and Tulsi, and it's Tulsi's way less war hawkish as far as she doesn't want to deal really with Israel or Saudi Arabia. And Trump, I'm not disagreeing. He's absolutely working with Israel and he's absolutely working with Saudi Arabia. That's without question. But my thing is the truth is a little nuanced, where I understand you could absolutely be like Tulsi and say, listen, he's still working with Saudi Arabia. He's still working with Israel. You could even say he's not completely cutting it out. Like you said, there's still some BS going on. I'm fine with that. But my problem is he absolutely helped the Syria situation. My thought is he cut the funding. It all de-escalated. It's still a mess. I mean, you have to understand too, even in
he
Venezuela,
cut the funding initially, but
yeah,
like
but
the
that
fact that he
changed the whole
didn't cut it
game. You
off.
have to understand Obama had 8 years and they were growing.
I'm aware.
ISIS was taking over. Trump had a year and a half. He cut the funding. He switched the operation and they're all completely gone, besides maybe one little small part. And now we're at square one. Now, is there still nonsense going on? Absolutely. It's 3 proxy wars going on at once. You have Russia, you have Iran in there. Yes, rightfully so. They got invited there, but still that doesn't make them any less
But there
of a
shouldn't.
threat to the
But
United.
here's what I think where the disconnect is: there shouldn't be. We shouldn't be there at all. And if Trump is there in any capacity at this point, you are continuing the Obama administration.
That's not true.
Coup.
That's not true at all. All right. First of all,
Yes, it is. Because we're the only
Nico,
reason that ISIS is there. That's what I'm trying to help you understand.
You don't need to help me understand. I've been talking about this since George Bush. Yeah, I knew it was a
Well,
lot.
ISIS wasn't a thing. ISIS wasn't a thing during George Bush.
If you inherit, if well, I'm talking about Al Qaeda, and then they
Okay,
just
go ahead.
rebranded or changed. I don't know if it's a really. Oh, look, Al Qaeda's
It's a
gone now.
combination of both. It's a combination of
Yeah,
both.
it's all nonsense. But Trump got in, and he inherited this entire thing. I think it's just a little bit disingenuous. I understand people don't like Trump, and he's not going as far as them. That's fine, but at least say, listen, he inherited this. He brought it to here. But the fact where like people are like, he's not completely gone, he didn't take his troops out. It's easy to say that from a computer, but if you're the president of the free world, you actually literally understand. And I'm not for all this nonsense that a lot of conservatives are doing in regards to even Iran. But if you want to think that Iran doesn't dislike the United States and Russia, and even in Venezuela, I'm not for regime change war, but there are actual real threats going on in the world. So it's easy.
Iran doesn't dislike. The only reason that Iran dislikes the United States is because we keep overthrowing their governments every time they attempt to nationalize their oil supply and keep our corporations out of it. That's why if they do dislike us, that's the reason why. And then our loyalty to Netanyahu.
I'm not. Trump inherited a mess. I don't think he.
I don't disagree with that. And I don't have Trump-deranged syndrome. Like I said, I think that there are some good things that he did in Syria. I don't have a problem with admitting that. But my thing is, some good things doesn't mean that you like. It doesn't mean that you solve the problem. It doesn't mean that you're anti-establishment. It just means, but like the moment that you didn't pull the troops out of Syria completely.
How do you know? What if you have intel, and this is not on some like intelligence agency said so, but what if you understand the full scope of the world? And it's easy that you're saying that now, but when you really understand, all right, Russia's doing this, Iran's doing this. Yes, they might be justified in their anger from what a president that you aren't, did 20 years ago. But at the end of the day, you got to keep your country safe. So that's why I'm not pro military slashing. Like I would love no war. I don't like guns, weapons. Like I don't want any. But I'm not anti-Second Amendment and I'm not anti-military because I understand that there are countries that would squash us like a bug if we didn't have any sort of presence in the world. So I just don't understand where it's like he's got to pull the troops out.
But that, in my opinion, that perpetuates the idea that in order for the United States to be successful and safe, every other country has to be in turmoil and a failure, which is inherently true. It's inherently untrue. Most of the problems in the last 70 to 80 years has been caused by the United States. After World War II, we saw an opportunity as well as Russia to imperialize and be the one dominant government in the world. So we started manufacturing consent. Even the idea of the Cold War was a lie because what's his damn name? Dulles, one of the Dulles brothers, told Truman that the Yalta Conference did not result in a peace treaty that gave Eastern Europe, the Eastern Bloc, back to Russia. So like that, from that very moment, it was a lie. And then we say the Cold War, there was never a bullet fired, except for we fired bullets in Iran, we fired bullets in Iraq, we fired bullets in Afghanistan, we fired bullets. Like we've been fighting fake manufactured proxy wars for the last 70 to 80 years that has every country's hair standing on end. So
I agree with that, but you said that I said every country needs to be in turmoil in order for us to be successful.
No, I didn't say you said that, but I said it's perpetuating that idea. Like, but it's we have to have a strong presence. We can have a strong presence at home.
That's like me saying you said something you never said. I'm saying I agree. We need a strong presence, but when you're in a problem, say you're already in a problem. Like I don't want to be at this house. I want to be home. But I inherit that problem. I have to solve it before I leave. And now it's like Trump's out there and he's got the troops there. I'm sure there's 50 different things he has to do. I don't agree with every single thing he's doing. I think some of it's questionable, but I think people that are purists, even on the right, like a Rand Paul, it sounds good. First of all, you never won presidency.
Well, Rand's not a purist. It's Ron maybe, but Rand is definitely not a purist.
It's closer than most people on the right, but it's like it's easy to say that stuff, but maybe, and I'm just throwing it out there, it's like, listen, we did this. We'll leave when you leave. And then Russia's like, I'm not leaving. And then, people will say,
but why? But then my question to you is, why is Russia there? Do you know why Russia's there?
Well, I agree that they got invited by Syria. They were allowed to be there, but that doesn't mean.
No, they didn't get invited. They were invited by Syria because of whose presence?
Al Qaeda, ISIS?
No, because of our presence.
United States.
Al Qaeda, whenever we first became engaged in Syria, it was 2011, 2012. There was no Al Qaeda and no ISIS there. We started giving humanitarian aid, which obviously, as you know, is a precursor to we just giving weapons to rebels and terrorists. All of a sudden, terrorists show up. Oh, now we got to be in Syria. So now Syria has to go and make a deal with the enemy, because I don't necessarily believe that Russia is our ally, but they're at the most an adversary. But the only other military in the world that's willing to stand up to the United States is Russia.
No,
So
I
now,
agree. I agree with you. I'm not disagreeing that that's why Russia had the justification to go there. But here's my thing. I'm not responsible. I disagree with what George Bush did. I disagree with what Hillary Clinton did. But if they screwed up and saved Mexico, and then Russia has the justification because they screwed up, and then Trump gets in and he's trying to do the right thing, and then we say, oh well, let's just let them be there because they're justified because of what they did. I think that's the big difference between me and progressives now. They want to tank our country and our people, in my perspective, based off the faults of what others have done, where it's like, all right, well, they get
how
it.
is that? How is that tanking the country though? How
Well,
is
because
allowing another
get that
country
Russia.
and not violating their sovereignty, like we wouldn't want another country to violate our sovereignty? How is that not taking? How is that tanking their country? In actuality, we're currently tanking our country by engaging in these.
But in
So that's why I'm
Venezuela,
trying
it's
to
the same thing.
understand.
I'm anti regime change in Venezuela. But the thing
Uh-huh.
is, the same people I hear saying, United States shouldn't be there. They don't ever say anything about Russia. I agree. We shouldn't have been there. Maybe they were
Russia just got there, and Russia got there because we were trying to institute a regime change.
That's what they're saying. That's what they're saying.
No, that is a. I
Do you
mean,
think? But do you think, Nico, as much? And I'm not a Russia is everything. I'm not Rachel Maddow. But do you think
Yeah.
Russia doesn't have any ulterior motives? Do you think they're really
I just said that at the very
running around
least
trying to?
they're-
Oh, we're trying to help Venezuela. We're trying to help Syria. Russia
No,
probably doesn't
I
give
just
two
said
shits
at the
about them.
very most they're an adversary, at least at the very least an economic adversary, because we try our hardest to keep them out of economic things across the world. Because like I said, at 70, 80 years ago, that decision was made that America and Russia were going to battle for imperialism. Whatever. That is what it is. The problem is we keep enabling Russia to do things like going to Venezuela because we won't stay out. Russia is never in Venezuela. Look, bro, we just try to say that Hezbollah is in fucking Venezuela. Really? Like, if people believe that shit, that I don't know what you've really, amount of propaganda anyone has consumed at that point to believe that Hezbollah has made it.
I'm not saying that.
But,
I'm just saying
that's why all these other countries' leaders, it's the same reason that that Fidel Castro, for example, partnered with Russia. He did not like Stalin. He hated Stalin. But there was no other large army that was willing to stand up to United States imperialism. And sometimes countries make deals with the devils that otherwise wouldn't be necessary if we would mind our own business and respect other sovereignty the same way we expect people to respect ours. That's all I'm saying. Is I don't disagree with you. Like, okay, when you got to clean up somebody else's mess like Trump has had to do, then absolutely, you do what you can under the best circumstances. But the problem is, you brought in Elliot Abrams. That's a tool of the establishment. You brought in John Bolton. That's another tool of the establishment. You brought in Mad Dog Mattis, who's another tool of the establishment. And like in the list, these are people who are actually going to be part of Hillary Clinton's cabinet. And then he's using their advising and their military strategies to do these things. So how can you be outside of the establishment claiming that you're doing things for the people, but you're literally using the same people who've caused all the problems to begin with that you said you were supposed to be fighting against? That's my issue. I don't have I see the good things that you're saying about Trump. I don't disagree. I just think that whether or not it's intentional or not, that there is just some elements to Trump's life that are so controversial that he doesn't want to come out because it could harm his brand, that will allow him to rely on bad advising from bad people, and it has effects on not only us but foreign countries as well. That's all I'm saying. I don't disagree with everything you're saying. I'm just saying it's not saying, oh, let's just put our guns down and pretend like flowers will save the world. I'm being actually pragmatic based off of what we know about history. If Iran had in 1956, I want to say it was, or we overthrew Mossadegh because he wanted to nationalize the oil supply in Iran. Originally, Iran was supposed to be, or not supposed to be, they were our Israel before Israel was our Israel. But Mossadegh came in and was like, nah, we're not doing it anymore. Guess what we did? We propagandized, we installed a right-wing theocratic dictator, and we use that same strategy across the globe over and over and over again, just like we're trying to do in Venezuela in 2019. So, but guess what? The turmoil from that region then became based off of United States involvement in issues we didn't need to be involved in. And then we even manufactured radical Islamic extremism, quote unquote, in the University of Nebraska based out of Pakistan. So like even the modern Islamic extremism that we know today, at least its organized side of it, came from us. So if Trump perpetuates any aspect of that, at that point, we have to be willing, in my opinion, we have a responsibility as journalists, pundits, commentators, objective people, whatever you want to call it, to say, look, like I told you, whenever I was the first one to say, yo, if Trump actually gets this Korea deal done, I hate to tell y'all, but he deserves a Nobel Peace Prize. You can talk all the shit you want to. Obama couldn't get it done. So, like, but at the same time, under that same breath, when he's doing things like what he's doing in Venezuela, when we know it's a lie, when we know he's manufacturing consent, he's trying to demonize socialism. And I'm not even a socialist. I believe in a mixed economy, but like you're using buzzwords to propagandize. You're using propaganda like that. I feel like somebody like that, whether intentionally or otherwise, cannot holistically be on the side of the American people. That's just my humble opinion about it.
No, and I think those criticisms are valid. With Venezuela, I stay away from it because first of all, I see that they're all just like, we got to go, we got to go, we got to go. But there's a lot of problems in the world, 27 million people in slavery. I'm not buying that why they're going to Venezuela is truly to help. And here's the thing, even with that, just tell me why.
I appreciate you admitting that, by the way. Most people won't.
Yeah, no, I know. Trust me. I call out the right on a lot of stuff and get a lot of heat for it. But I like straightforward. Just tell me, like, if it's because of Russia's there or we have some, just say that. I would have a lot more respect if they're like, listen, we got to go there because we got to be imperial and we got to do Russia or something. That would make more sense to me. I get they can't do that, but I'm tired of the lies. And even in like Saudi Arabia, why are we doing so much stuff with them? For the money, for the petrodollar? Like I've had someone on here who was saying, it sounds good to pull out. And trust me, I don't trust them at all, but it's like, in ideology, it could be like, okay, we do this, we stop working with them, there's going to be a lot less violence. But then if it in reality leads to the crash of our currency, then it's going to lead to, the demise of our people. So that's kind of what I'm saying. Even in the Middle East, I don't doubt that we've done a lot of stuff. I guess I don't think we've done everything. I don't think everything in the world is our problem. I think certain things are human nature. But now I will say I don't disagree with you as far as Venezuela. I don't trust it. I almost never talk about it in the sense of like, I'm not like, yeah, we got to help them from communism. I'm not worried about that. I walk down the street, there's 40 tents. I'm worried about California. I'm not worried about Venezuela. No disrespect. No disrespect.
Bro, everybody worried. I'm worried about California. My friends keep, Pasta keep trying to get me to move there and fee. And I'm like, nah, y'all can have that. I'm gonna stay over here in Florida, in Miami.
We got crazy.
We're own little country out here. So
we got
the 10 cities out there are crazy, man. The 10 cities are crazy.
And even in the Middle East, a lot of right wingers, and I've been hosting a lot of debates where they're making the point that, are we there for the United States? A lot of people feel like we're there for Israel and we're doing all these stuff for them. Where I'm like, if you want to exist and do your thing, I have Israeli supporters. That's all I love. But if you're going to try to expand or do stuff with us, it's like, at what point is this helping us? And you're totally right to ask questions.
And at what point is it hurting us? At a certain point, you get a net negative, right? You're spending so much money, and you have situations like what you're dealing with in California, or what we're dealing with Florida, with the environment. Like we have a conservative, Ron DeSantis. It was a big thing with him and Andrew Gillum. I honestly didn't ever buy the narrative that Ron DeSantis was a horrible person because of that one comment he made about Gillum. And especially because I'm like, Gillum got some damn nerve to talk about somebody being racist when he hangs out with a bunch of closeted racists and take money from them. And it turns out Ron DeSantis is actually probably the best goddamn governor we've had in Florida. Like,
ooh, and let's go.
Oh yeah. No, like put together an environmental coalition immediately, off rip, got rid of the red tide, banned fracking immediately. Like, it's taking over Debbie Wasserman Schultz's district because she's been siphoning money. That's the second wealthiest school district in the country. She's been siphoning money out for years. A Green Party guy named Elijah Manley brought this to attention, couldn't get school board at large, actually had his life threatened because that's how much money is involved in this school district. But it got to the attention of Ron DeSantis. Ron DeSantis is literally put up a grand jury to take back the school district and make sure that money is being reallocated back to the students. Like, good people can do good things regardless of party affiliation, right? And I think that you and I can both agree with that. But at a certain point, you do got to wonder, when is getting involved in other people's affairs where it's like your personal life? I can help my mom out every now and then. I can help my brother out every now and then, my sisters too. But then when they're like, I got to help their friends out, then I got to help their friends out. No, eventually.
And a lot of Trump supporters feel that, like, they're just like, I thought this was America first. Even with foreign aid and stuff, we gave enough money to Central America and Mexico, more money than the wall. So it's like, we can't, why are we giving other people? A lot of people feel you. I feel you. And I guess where I want to get to, and then we could go to other stuff besides foreign, is I don't disagree. I'm very bearish, not bullish on Venezuela. I never talk about it or say go in there. They could solve their socialist problems if they want. It's not up for us, and I don't trust our motives. And I would much rather them, if it's some sort of imperial Russia thing, just say that. Don't lie to me and say we're trying to help them, because
I know. At least tell me that. Be
just tell me the
up.
truth. I'll be like, all right, we gotta do what we gotta do. Or like the lies really annoy me. But I guess my difference is, and maybe not, maybe it's not a difference, is I don't think Trump is here. I don't think he's executing on a flawless level of he's doing everything right. But I saw us here, like with the last two administrations, it's almost like they were doing everything wrong. They were screwing everything up, making everybody mad, and ISIS was growing, and nothing was going on. I feel like Trump took it from there to here, and I feel like he's in a really big pickle. I mean, Saudi Arabia, no matter how much he dislikes them, maybe we can't sever ties. Our connection with them via petrodollar is too strong. Israel, maybe our ties are too strong where we can't get away. And trust me, a lot of conservatives really want to. They feel like they're operating our Congress.
Yeah,
And
no,
that
which is
they're
crazy. It's crazy
they're
that
calling a
now
lot of
even
shots.
conservatives are like, oh my God, this Israel shit has to stop.
Well,
like we look like BB's bitch. We really look like BB's bitch most of the time.
Once you see it, you can't unsee it. Where I don't care if people like that or they have PACs, but they're yelling at Ilhan Omar for saying APAC, where it's like that's what they do. They're an Israeli committee, and you go there. Nancy Pelosi's there, Chuck Schumer's there. I'm like, I've never seen the right and left agree on anything with Israel. That would be fine if we could get things done in our country, but it's like,
could you imagine if she still had dual citizenship to Somalia, like many of our Congress people have dual citizenship to Israel? Could you imagine how she would get through? I mean, she wears a hijab and has racial and ethnic tropes thrown at her. Imagine if she had the dual citizenship that a lot of our Congress people do.
And I'm not a fan of hers at all, but I don't like at all the way conservatives talk about her. I don't like how they lie about her. And I don't like the exaggerations, because there are real stuff going on. But if you call everything anti-Semitic, like you can't talk about APEC. They're even saying in England that the word cultural Marxism is anti-Semitic. And I was like, first of all, I didn't even know it was Jewish. Second of all, like, wow, you don't have to like.
I mean, I don't like the phrase cultural Marxism because it doesn't make any rational sense, but it's not anti-Semitic in its slightest.
We'll get into that in a second. So yeah, I feel you on that stuff. I guess, will you agree? We'll try to get some Trump love in there. You don't have to vote for him, but do you agree that he helped out and did a lot more than Hillary and even rolled the ball more than Obama? Do you think that's true?
I would say that he is not a worse president than Obama. It's very hard.
Can you say he did a better job in Syria and a better job in the world, or no?
I could say he did a better job in Syria. I'm not satisfied with it, but honestly, it's the better job.
Yeah, that's it. That's a lot. I feel it.
That's not, that's like I said, I don't suffer from TDS. Like I can admit when somebody's doing a good job, even if it's incremental. But I do think there's ways he could improve. But he's definitely better than Obama. Definitely,
that's all I wanted to hear. I agree. And even with Bernie, I'm like that. I think recently he said he was against open borders. And I was like, oh, whoa, because you would just expect open them up. But he's like, that doesn't make sense. I was like,
Bernie's never been for open borders ever. People say that, but no, I'm saying people say that he is. But once again, these are lies. Like that, these are the same people who said that Bernie was for 90%. So you know how it goes. You were a fan of Bernie at one point, so a lot of times you have to navigate through the propaganda and the lies, because the duopoly on both sides of the fence would try. Even though you don't view him as much of an outsider, he's still being attacked by both sides of the fence. So clearly, he still has some outsider appeal to him that they're worried about.
I'm gonna make a video about his open border things. I'm gonna show him some love once I saw that, because like I didn't know, I didn't like say, oh, he's open borders, but like just anytime someone says something dope, I'll share it. It's not about, to me, it's not about the personality. It's about, is it right? Is it wrong? That's why Tulsi gets a lot of love. Her team needs to let me interview her. They're like, we don't know about this anomaly guy. I'm like, come on, guys, let me interview her.
Actually, it's more of a function of like, it's just very hard for her to get in interviews now because she's kind of working. Her family's basically running her campaign right now. So like, you know how hard it was. I mean, bro, I've been talking to Tulsi personally for the last year and a half. I didn't get my first interview with her until last week. So
it takes a while. I got it.
It takes a minute, but I'll see what I can do, man. I'll see what I can do to get her on.
So one of her campaign people was like, oh, Anomaly, I used to like your videos in 2016, which meant Anomaly, we liked you when you liked Bernie. We don't like the new shit though. I was like, okay, I feel it.
But she went on Tucker Carlson though. So like, Tulsi isn't going to discriminate. Like she wants to help people. She doesn't like the label. She really wants to help everybody and want to help. She said something perfect in one of her first ads, but she said they fear me because they fear the truth. If
Well,
you don't fear the truth, then you don't have anything to fear from me.
I I'd give her a fair interview. I mean, I saw her interview on on The View or whatever. It was off. I was disgusted just watching them talk to her. I was like, these people. She was too nice, honestly. I don't knock her, but it almost annoyed me because you got Megan McCain yelling at her. I was like, man, I would not be able to be composed. Like I'd be like, listen,
Meditation, man, meditation.
I'm not trying to disrespect the late great or anything, but it's like, man, I
You want
don't
to
know
really
if
get
you.
irritated? Watch her TYT interview.
It's
Like it
probably
is the
awful.
why does an anonymous source says that Steve Bannon likes you? Why is that? I don't fucking know. I don't care. What does that have to do with me? Like,
That's
why should I have to ask why somebody else likes me?
That's the worst. That's the worst thing going on the left and the right. They do it with like Farrakhan,
Guilty
David
by
Duke, with all that
association.
stuff. But here's the thing: if
That is so
anybody,
true. I'm glad you brought that up. That exact it's the same shit as the Farrakhan shit. Exactly.
but
Like you had a random picture.
I want to interview. I want to take a picture with Farrakhan. It doesn't mean I agree with everything he says, but I want to interview him. And I think he's a pretty legendary person. Whether you like him or hate him, he's a legend. So I don't like that the right. If I did that, they try to ruin my life. Where it's like, listen, if Farrakhan listens to me or someone else that you consider extreme, that's actually dope because I get messages saying anomaly. I've never thought of it that way. So I can bring new ideas to people or maybe de-escalate their feelings in a way. There's nothing bad with communicating. There's nothing like if David Duke likes water and I like water and he doesn't like war and I don't like war, it doesn't mean we're the same person. It just means we agree on two things and maybe we disagree on others. Same with
Yeah.
Farrakhan. Like I think it's hilarious. I think he said recently like he's the modern messiah. I think it's hilarious, honestly. I don't fight like people are like, how mad are you at this? I was like, I think it's absolutely hilarious. But
Yeah.
I guess I
Like
don't
most people who are religious, like when they say something, it's once you've evolved past the idea of religion because it's just politics, you're like, okay, these guys are just hilarious. It's not even to be taken seriously anymore.
and that's what it's about though is getting on the same page as someone. Like we disagree with 9 out of 10 things, but if we can find one thing like Rand Paul, Tulsi Gabbard, very different domestic policy, but they came together and said, hey, we both want to stop arming terrorists, and then they worked together on the Stop Arming Terrorists Act. Is that not cool? Like I don't remember that ever not being cool. I think it's a media made up thing, and it's a both sides thing now, where one of my favorite documentaries, I always bring it up because the philosophy is so real. It was this guy Daryl Davis. He was a black jazz musician who got hundreds of KKK members to quit the KKK. Like it's a profound
I
story,
saw that.
but
I
he
saw
did
that's
it by
crazy.
being so cool that they just realized they weren't racist. Where sometimes, like if somebody really hates this group, sometimes the greatest thing you could be is just being that guy that they're looking for. Where it's like certain even stereotypes in certain ethnicities I have. It's like, is everyone like that? No, of course. But are there people that are like that? Well, there's some for sure. So if you become not that, or you become like someone dope, like for instance, say you're super libertarian and you're something that people think they don't like, but then they're like, oh, I like that guy. And then over a year, you're like, wait, I like that guy more than I like those people. And then you're like, wait, I'm not racist or sexist. Like you're like, I thought I was, but now I realize. So I
Yeah.
believe in the philosophy of communication and also like being just a
Understanding.
legend. And
Yeah.
everyone doesn't have to feel that way, but it's like the fact that they would try to demonize me on the left or the right. Like I want to talk to a lot of people, but there's certain people, if I ever had a conversation or took a picture with, they'd ruin my life in a second and smear me. But it's like I'm not pushing their agenda. It's just like I wanted to talk and maybe find some similarity or give them a fair interview. Like Tulsi, I'm like, give me the interview, baby girl. Not all jokes aside. It's like I was like, I'm gonna give you a better interview. I'm not gonna act like MSNBC did. I'm gonna actually treat you with respect.
Yeah, I feel you. I mean, to be honest, the independent news world has given her a much fairer shake than, and even like I said, even Tucker Carlson. Tucker Carlson gave her a much better shake than TYT, The View, any of the interviews on MSNBC. It's kind of ridiculous, but no, I agree. As a just as a brief aside, my brother, while in Navy A school, met a guy named his last name is Harrison, and that was actually the third richest family in the Civil War. Like they helped to fund the Civil War wouldn't have been possible without this family.
Yeah.
Guy was racist as hell, admittedly and openly. And what happened was my brother saw his heart and was like, this dude isn't fucking racist. He just never met a black person before. So when he would say some things, instead of chastising him in front of everybody, my brother pulled him off to the side. By the end of A school, Royce told his family was like, you're not going to be hanging out with him. because he's black, or we're mixed, but for all intents and purposes, we're black. And he's told his family to basically go fuck off. Like, I'm not like you. I don't want to be like you. And it was all because of the kindness that my brother by himself showed him. And
Exactly.
so you'd be surprised at how understanding people can be. We're all limited by our experiences, right? All of us. The more we experience, the more we learn, the more most people tend to grow.
Mm.
In the mainstream and the establishment understands this. That's why they go out of their way to try and shape our experiences for us, rather than letting us try to experience things for ourselves. So we have to be willing to navigate those things and have these conversations.
And even the root level of, say, racism or sexism or any of the isms, it roots, like, on a deeper level, it roots from fear, anger, hate, disdain, and sometimes partially valid arguments mixed with all those other emotions that, like, maybe you're onto something, but you're handling it in the wrong way and you're blaming everyone, or you're not being heard. Sometimes people want to be heard, even on the Trump side. They're calling everyone racist, sexist, xenophobic, and they keep pushing this thing instead of having a conversation. And it's actually making people more hateful and more racist, where it's like, you can't do this, open borders. It's like, they're like, we don't care about ethnicity, but if you keep doing this, like, we don't want to end up like this. So I find that, like, even if someone hates me based on the color of my skin, or like hates, like I said, I'm most mixed too. I'm part Hispanic, but white for purposes, whatever. If people are
Mm-hmm.
like, I hate white people, I don't, unless they're being like violent about it, it doesn't make me mad. I want to hear it. And then honestly, I might agree with them on how, be like, yes, these white skinned people are doing this. I agree with you. But here's what I, and like that type of stuff, like, they're like, that's a guy who but if you just yell at them and like, oh, dude, you hate all white, like, then you become that annoying white guy that they don't like, or they're like,
You mean
this
you
is why I
become Ben
feel that way.
Shapiro? You become Ben Shapiro. Is what
Yeah,
you're
he has his moments of different stuff, but I clown on him sometimes and compliment him. I try to
I
shut
don't
it
like
down.
the social justice warrior nonsense that comes from both the left and the right, man. I just like, and Ben Shapiro has literally made a career off of being a social justice warrior that critiques social justice warriors. It's kind of ridiculous. When he
I
made his rant about Black Panther, I was like, holy shit, this is where we're at now. Okay, all right.
I I didn't see it, but I caught him out the other week. He said that something was anti-Semitic when it wasn't, and I was like, bro, you
It's an
gotta,
objective fact.
but you got to be careful, because like, it does exist. Like, racism exists. People literally do hate Jews, and people
Mhm.
really do. But like, if you call everything anti-Semitic, what you're actually doing is building the hate more, because there's a lot of people, especially on my channel, they have valid critiques of Israel and even Judaism, just like people have critiques of Islam and Christianity and Catholicism. So if you say any critique of your race, religion, or gender is racism, sexism, anti-Semitism, Islamophobia, it actually
Mhm.
builds the hate, because it's like, listen, and then you could separate, all right, these people are just out of their mind hateful and they're not trying to listen. These people have genuine concerns. Like, there's nuance there, where it's like, if you call, that's why I called him out. I was like, listen, I'm not trying to knock you or your people, but if you call everything anti-Semitic, like Ilhan Omar, do I think she likes Jewish people? I think it's debatable, but probably not that much. However, is a
I think she doesn't like Israelis. I think she doesn't like Israelis.
yeah,
Like, and that, if we're going to be honest, I think that's what it is. I don't. But at the same token, she's never once came at Jewish people or once came at Israelis. She's called out Benjamin Netanyahu and APEC the same way she's called out Saudi Arabia. You know
and
what I'm
that's
saying?
fine.
So
And
it's
someone's
consistent
allowed,
across the board.
yeah, and someone's allowed to do that. I get a lot of people don't like her. I don't specifically trust her, but am I
Well,
gonna
why don't you trust her? If you don't mind me asking.
multiple reasons. I just I don't really trust a lot of, I won't even say progressives, but I feel like people have to love this country and understand that big government, in my perspective, big government is not going to solve all the problems. So I feel like there's certain points that she makes that I always, I won't say defend her, but I'm like, guys, don't exaggerate about this. Argue her statement, as opposed to just throwing a label on it and telling her to
I
shut
feel
up.
like she's constantly telling like people to not allow government to get big and do things that will ultimately harm us and other people.
Yeah,
Like
but
that's why I
that's
asked
what
why.
that's what progressive ideology is. I get it. Even progressives, they don't like the government. Like, you're not. I don't think you're a super fan of the government by any stretch of the imagination.
You were
But
right.
when you
Yes.
when you give more power and control to them via, whether it be total control of healthcare, whether it be higher taxes, and stuff along those sorts, it funnels even a lot of restrictions. I'm not saying you specifically. I don't know where you stand,
Mm-hmm.
but a lot of people, they're always trying to limit guns. They're trying to put and the right is guilty of not the gun thing so much, but the speech thing. When it comes to
Mhm.
Ilhan Omar, that's what annoyed me because I was like, I thought we were free speech, and now you're exaggerating. But the left, traditionally, they're always trying to, nowadays, not actually historically, but censor too much, where it's like, it seems like every step of the way they're trying to
I
take
think it's
money.
equally. I honestly think it's equally both. As a person who comes from the left and the person who literally critiques the left, I literally critiqued the left yesterday when they were trying to say that Bernie, people were coming at Bernie for the open borders. I'm like, that's ridiculous.
But
But I think
domestic,
that on the other side of the fence, the right does just as much. Like you just said, Ben Shapiro. This is has become his career, is censoring people's ideas. It's actually a career field on the right now. Whenever anyone says anything, it's problematic. Anyone on the left says anything is problematic. Anyone on the right says anything is problematic. And that's, in my opinion, to stifle discourse and conversation. And it's an establishment tactic that is being employed.
yeah.
An establishment tactic is, or establishment, as you know, that they don't give a fuck about the D or the R. It's a dollar sign. And that's it.
There's a lot of hypocrites on the right, and there's a lot of free speech. Unless you disagree with me, now I'm going to cry about it. I don't agree with that. However, I want to say, like, domestically, like progressive ideology from pretty much every domestic policy, it's all big government. It's all more power to the government in hopes that they give it back to the people and that it translates in that way.
I don't know about that, man. I guess other than Medicare for all, I gotta hear a better example.
Healthcare for all,
Well,
15-hour
it's
minimum
Medicare for
wage.
all, but $15 minimum wage literally had to be implemented by the federal government because like literally our economy was about to crash last time we didn't have $15 minimum wage. I don't know if you know that, but that's what happened. FDR introduced it with the labor laws of 1940, I want to say it was, and that had to be done. And like that's why the idea that people was like, oh, minimum wage has never been government determined is that's a lie. It's actually always been government determined.
That's not what I'm
So
saying, but let's go on that because this is a good conversation. So even when I liked Bernie, I never liked $15 an hour minimum wage. I'm not saying that the government never implemented it before, but here's my ideology behind that. It sounds good on paper. People are in poverty. People need to
mhm.
get paid more. Things are going up. I agree with that thought, but my thought about how it rolls out is now who can afford $15 an hour minimum wages? Big businesses. Who can afford $15 an hour minimum wage? Small businesses, starting businesses, people with 1 to 5 employees, mom and pop shops, family owned restaurants that pay, dishwashers $10 an hour. Those are the only people that can't afford it. So it's going to crush small businesses. Similar in California, obviously they're not, I wouldn't say true Bernie type progressives, which my thought would be even worse than it is now. But you have the highest to start a small business. It costs between fees like over $1,000, which is higher than any other state. So we have the biggest economy, the highest taxes, but we also have the highest poverty, the most homelessness, the most small businesses leaving the state to China and other places. So we're leading in all of the worst categories, even though we have the highest taxes. I think it's by design because when you crush people, you think you're redistributing, and that's the whole like socialism, communism ideology
That's
of
actually that's not what socialism is. Socialism is the
no, it's
idea that the people control the means of
well, no,
production.
I know that's the hope. That's what they want to happen. But in
No,
reality,
that's the
what happens?
definition of it. That's literally
No,
the
I know,
definition of it.
but
We've
it's
never seen.
but it
I just
never
want to go ahead and
works
squash the myth. Literally, there's never been socialism implemented ever
because it
successfully.
doesn't work.
No, it's because it's been corrupted by imperialists and corporatists.
But here's
Like
the thing:
what
if
we're seeing in Venezuela, same thing. It's not the socialism when it was allowed to even flourish a little bit before the United States started implementing sanctions was actually pulling Venezuela out of a depression under Hugo Chavez. Then because they were becoming successful and therefore we no longer had a reason to be there and quote unquote help, that's when we started allowing our corporatists to get involved in our military industrial complex
here's
to
the
get
thing,
involved.
but
And then all of a sudden we blame everything on socialism.
but for it to
without,
work in the
Go ahead.
real world, they should have stopped all that from happening. Here's my thing: if I say I could build the tallest,
How do
greatest,
you stop
here,
America from doing
listen,
what America does? That's
listen.
what I don't get. I don't get that. You guys explain that to me. How do you stop America from doing what America does before you go on your next point?
If I say I want to build the tallest building in the town, but it falls every time, I don't understand the argument of no, it's the best. I've just never done it right.
But no. Because if I want to build a tallest building in town, and then the building 5 blocks down, or the people, the construction workers from that building 5 blocks down, keep bringing their wrecker to knock my building down, you can't then say
Stop the record.
You can't then say the foundation wasn't strong enough. That doesn't make any. It's a logical leap that doesn't work. you can stop the record, but then you're talking about going to war. What I'm saying is, as an American, we have literally no room to say what economy does and doesn't work. You know what economy actually doesn't work and what economy actually has killed the most people? It's capitalism. There's no pure economic theory that has ever been implemented successfully. The countries that have worked and have implemented things successfully have always used mixed economies. Capitalism doesn't work 100% when it's being unchecked because there's always waste. And it operates under the idea that there is equal equity of opportunity. And that's not the case because and it also operates under the idea that it's about maximizing competition, which is not true. It's about crushing your competition. And so that's what the $15 minimum wage, just to bring it back real quick, is about. See, the problem with $15 minimum wage when it's implemented in microcosms across the country, Washington, California, even New York, to some extent, you're going to have microcosm problems that are already there. Like small businesses were already having problems. Homelessness was already an issue. That when you have it around the country, however, all of a sudden, I have a little bit more spending power. So now I get to choose whether or not I want to go to Walmart, which I hate, or go to this small business. All of a sudden, the small business is bringing in more people because more people are spending money there. All of a sudden, I can't afford to pay my employees more because these people now have financial autonomy that they never had before. So yeah, partially what you're saying is true in a microcosm of one state in a very limited situation where people get paid $15 an hour, it will have an immediate backlash effect because it's not the norm. But when people have more money to travel, more money to spend, it's already proven the middle class spends their money. They don't hoard it. That's usually why they stay in the middle class. And so if more people are spending money, more businesses are getting money. More businesses are getting money, more people are able to be hired, and it's cyclical.
So you think it only works if the whole country has to do it. So you can't test it out in the state, even though it's failed every single time it's ever been implemented. It doesn't work anywhere. It doesn't work anywhere.
In city and municipal microcosm.
It doesn't work long periods of time ever by design.
Huh? Hold on. I don't get that. What do you mean?
There's
because our most successful. Go ahead. I'll let you finish. Go ahead.
So your answer to $15 an hour minimum wage. The psychology behind it is very simple. If only big businesses can afford $50 an hour minimum wage, I'm a small business owner.
But I just told you, you get people buying power. They're shopping.
I hear what you're saying. Let me finish. It does. All right. I'm a small business. I make videos, YouTube, and Facebook. For me to hire somebody, I'm not paying somebody $15 an hour. It's just not happening.
Why is that though?
Because I don't want to, but also it's not business wise. You're assuming that if people have more money, that they're just going to be giving it to me. How do you know?
No, I didn't. I said, if we're talking about the economy, what we know to be true over the course of 80 to 100 years, the middle class is the base of our economy. If the middle class is thriving economically, they will spend money.
The middle class never thrives under socialism or leftism because
what are you talking about?
Listen, you talk for 2 minutes. Let me get a minute in. Let me get a minute. You talk. Let me get a minute in. Let me get a minute in. Let me get a minute in. You talk for minutes. Let me get a minute in. Listen,
my point. I'm saying
leftism.
Like, you can't say a quote unquote truism like that and then not address what I said.
Well, you can't implement it. You can't explain.
I'm not even a socialist, is what I'm saying. I'm not a socialist. But when you claim something like that, like socialism never worked.
You're not letting me talk.
But okay, are you going to address my points though? Is what I'm saying.
That it's never been implemented, bro.
It's never been implemented.
I know that's a problem, bro. You can't implement it. You're not strong enough. You can't do it. You just think
based off of what logic?
It's never happened, bro. Yeah, like
because America has America not been involved and tried to destroy every single country. You know what, matter of fact,
for the history of humanity, it's everything.
Let's double back.
I want to. Do you truly believe everything's America? Do you truly think America's
over the last 70 to 100 years?
I'm talking about in humanity forever.
But we're talking about
everything.
I'm not talking about humanity. I'm talking about the last 70 to 100 years where America became the largest economy. Like, that's what I'm referring to. If you want to ask if socialism works, actually, socialism is the only reason that Cuba was able to exist in any capacity. They have the highest literacy rate in South America. Like, they have a 99% literacy rate, 50-50 legislature for gender. They have the best medical school in the world. They discovered the cure for cancer and put it in a damn inhaler. And they still have the same card they were using in 1940 because they had a distribution, a fair and just distribution of wealth. that other countries had not have. And of course, healthcare and all that good stuff. You're going to tell me socialism doesn't work when you're literally cut off from the entire Western world, and even being cut off from the entire Western world, not only economically, but when it comes to your access to knowledge as well, you still manage to discover the cure for cancer. And that's what happens. Even though America tried to crush them economically with the embargo, it still allowed them to, well, you know what? We'll just work with what we have. And what they had still worked well. Like, that's what I'm trying to explain to you. Whenever America isn't involved, you can't say socialism doesn't work and just say it, oh, because it hasn't been implemented.
Can I explain why if it was implemented? The entire philosophy it claims that it's helping the middle class, but you have to understand, I am a middle class person. I'm a small business owner. Everywhere that leftists go, they steal my money via taxes. It's a lie that they're not going to steal my money.
Listen,
bro, you talk, bro, shut up for a second. You talk for 5 minutes.
Don't tell me to shut up.
No, I'm telling you to shut up.
Why you raising your voice? But you can't.
3 minutes, bro. I can't even talk for 5 seconds without you cutting me off. Let me talk for a minute, bro. You talk for 2 minutes straight.
Go ahead.
I can't even talk for 5 seconds, bro.
You got to justify what you're saying. You can't just say
I can't justify it if you don't shut up, bro.
But you're not trying to. Go ahead.
Can I speak for more than 5 seconds without you cutting me off?
Go ahead.
I'm asking you a question.
Go ahead. I'm saying, go ahead.
Everywhere leftism goes, they take my money. Are you going to let me finish? Via taxes, via small business rates, via forced mandatory individual mandate healthcare. Every $15 an hour minimum wage of your small business. So you're saying you're helping the middle class, but all they do is take the middle class's money in every which way. In California,
and that's
I'm a
the
product.
left.
Who
that's
wants
the
to
left.
take?
Even though North Carolina has some of the highest tax rates in the country, and they're by far right wing, and they literally raise taxes on the middle class.
Republicans are not libertarian enough for me at all. But hear me out.
But you keep saying the left. That's what I'm trying to help you understand. You're saying the left. It's not just the left.
The further left you go, bro, you're trying to justify individual mandates and healthcare that I don't right now because of Trump. I don't pay for healthcare. You know how much I save by not paying for healthcare? $2,000 to $5,000 a year. So that's $2,000 to $5,000 a year that you, Nikko, and all your, progressive friends, much love, would steal from me. That's money that you're taking out of my bank account that I don't want to pay for health insurance that I don't want, that I literally can't use. That do absolutely. Let me finish, bro. That do absolutely nothing for me. So that's $2,000 to $5,000 that progressives would take from me, or any left-leaning leader. Are there fake Republicans who would do it too? 1,000%. But everybody on the left wants to do it, from the progressive left to the establishment. So there's $2,000 to $5,000 I don't have. Now, small business
based off. So where are you getting those numbers from?
Bro,
you're
can I talk,
out of thin air. But you what are you
talking
saying
about?
That's facts, but not giving me any numbers to justify.
Let me explain it. All right. So under Obamacare, or under Bernie Sanders care, or Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, to what left-leaning people want to do in California, they want healthcare for illegals out here. Bernie Sanders wants healthcare for everybody. In order to get that, they implement something called an individual mandate. So before Obamacare, if you didn't want health insurance, you didn't have to buy it. If you wanted to buy it, you get to choose where you buy it from. You could work for an employer, and they'll take it.
Obamacare is a libertarian policy, by the way. But go ahead.
It's not a
that's not a progressive policy.
That's the biggest
literally.
The
Koch brothers poured money into Obamacare. It was supposed to be universal health care.
Bro, the Koch brothers are fake. They're not real libertarians. They're fake, bro. They're not real libertarians. I'm not a Koch brother fan.
But
I don't care who does it. But
that isn't the left. That isn't the left. So stop codifying it as the left when it's not the left. You don't want me to codify you as something that you're not. So don't codify the left as a blanket general statement like that. That's what I'm trying to explain to you.
There's not a single left-leaning person who doesn't want to implement the individual mandate.
That is not true. That is literally not fucking true. You can't just say shit like, bro. Bernie doesn't even want to implement an individual mandate. Bernie doesn't even want that. Have you even actually looked at Bernie Sanders' Medicare for All plan?
Bro,
have you actually looked at the numbers?
Will you let me talk? Let me talk for 5. Can I get 10 seconds, or are you gonna cut me off?
But you're making statements of calling them fact.
Listen what I'm saying.
The shit that you're saying.
Listen what I'm saying. Bernie Sanders, healthcare for all. The way that they get the funding for it is by something which you probably don't even know what it is. It's called an individual mandate. They get it by forcing you to buy it. That's 1,000. You're 1,000% wrong.
That's literally
you think
that's actually literally not.
Nikko,
the mandate you're referring to is an Obamacare thing. That's not a Medicare.
You think that Bernie Sanders wouldn't have an individual mandate? You think he'd let tens of millions of people opt out and not pay for healthcare?
Actually, no. Well, do you want me to explain to you what he would do, or do you want to keep trying to tell me facts based off of
the name
nothing?
of it, which you probably never heard of before? It's called an individual mandate. Every left
I worked
from
in health
Obama.
insurance anomaly. I know what an individual mandate is. But thank you for telling.
Like,
you're not giving me any facts, but you keep telling me what I don't know.
Bernie and Obama can't fund it without that, bro. That's how they get the funding.
Man.
So
really?
tell me how Bernie Sanders is going to let me not buy. Is he going to force me to buy healthcare? Is he going to, or can I opt out and pay $0 without a fee and a fine?
First of all, you wouldn't have to be forced to pay anything. It would come off of restructuring the taxes we already have. He already explained this. He says that the taxes that we have right now, according to the multiple think tanks, not even just his, you would actually save money. You would save $10,000 to $12,000 a year under his Medicare for All plan. This has been verified. That's why I keep asking you, where are the numbers at, Anomaly? Because the facts don't agree with you. You can't just say the left wants this. Bernie wants an individual mandate. Bernie
he does, bro. You don't get
the individual mandate all of the time. That's part of the reason why he wants his Medicare for all. It's called the quote unquote Conyers bill, because that was the gold standard for Medicare for all. It doesn't have a requirement on the middle class to pay for an individual mandate for Medicare for all. All it does is restructure the taxes that we already pay, make sure that the government is spending it where it needs to be spent, instead of spending it on stupid shit like war or waste, and wasting in other ways. So what you're saying I would agree with you 100% if the facts and the numbers behind it backed it up, but none of the facts back up what you're saying.
First of all, you don't have to be screaming at me. Second of all, dude, even progressives
know. You just screamed at me and told me to shut up. So
because you wouldn't let me talk.
Don't scream at me then. Don't scream at me then.
I'm going to tell you to stop talking.
I don't have a problem with you. I don't have a problem with you telling me to let you talk, but don't scream at me. Don't tell me to shut up if you don't want the same energy reciprocated. That's all I'm saying. But go ahead.
Bro, do you think I would have told you that if I could get a word in for 2 seconds?
Go ahead. But can I even talk now? Not to yell at you. I ask for the same respect. That's all. Go ahead.
But watch it back and see who's screaming the whole time, and see who did it to literally get you to stop screaming for 5 minutes and let me talk. You could watch it back. Who started screaming? Who wouldn't let the other person talk? It's very clear. But
no, I'm not gonna let somebody just spew you're saying truisms as if they are true without facts. So there's no point in you to continue to talk and base your entire argument on a premise that is not backed in fact. That's what I'm trying to explain to you.
I'm right.
So when I ask for proof,
all right, Nico, you're not even, bro. Even now,
when I ask you for proof,
you're
you get
screaming
upset
at me, and you're not even listening.
Because when I ask you for proof, you get upset rather than just giving me the proof. If you ask me for proof of something,
dude,
I don't have a problem giving it to you.
Dude, you're not. Once again,
if you don't have the proof, listen, I don't have the numbers, and then move on.
Bro, listen to how you're acting, dude. I can't even talk for 3 seconds. First of all, your ideology of, I don't agree with you, so I'm going to scream over you and not, it's like, dude.
That's my ideology now? Yep, that's my ideology? Bro, asking you for proof is my ideology.
Nico, I can't even explain.
You don't have the number.
Nico, I can't even, listen, first of all, you're yelling at me.
Something that isn't factual.
Nico, all you're doing is cutting me off.
Why would I let you waste everyone's time and say something is a fact when it's not? It just doesn't, it's not logical. It doesn't make any sense.
Nico, I can't even get to the facts because you cut me off every 2 seconds, and you're exposing yourself, bro. Everyone can see. I can't even get it out. You say, where are the facts?
I'm exposing myself. You just said that Bernie wants an individual mandate.
Nico, do you want me to?
It is a lie. It is a literal lie. But I'm exposing myself.
Nico,
hey, go ahead, man. It's all you. Go ahead.
Do you want me to get a timer to see how long you interrupt me? Even now, listen. There's.
I'm very aware of how.
1 second interruption. All right, can I talk?
Go ahead.
All right, 2 seconds interruptions. Can I get 5 seconds out or 10 seconds? Or are you gonna interrupt me? Because I could.
Anomaly. You can be as sarcastic as you want to be, but the facts don't respect sarcasm. That's all I'm saying.
I'm not being sarcastic.
If you want to engage in legitimate civil discussion and claim things as truisms,
Nico, can I talk?
Then
it's been 5 minutes.
Provide the facts.
Nico,
I interrupt you to say, hey, can you prove that for me?
10 minutes.
And if you can't prove it, then go ahead. Just say that and move on.
I can't even
go ahead. So go ahead. So continue.
Nico, this is now 11 minutes interruptions. Can I speak, or are you going to interrupt me? Are you frozen? Did you freeze yourself?
I'm on your behalf, not mine.
Nico, can I speak? Is it
go ahead.
12 minutes of interruptions now? I can't even speak for 5 seconds, and you're screaming that I can't back up what I say while you're interrupting me for saying it. Do you understand how ridiculous and childish that is? All right.
We can move on.
You ready? Can you take 20 seconds of speaking? without interrupting?
But you're still talking about nothing. You're not talking about facts. Either speak the facts or move on. That's it.
Niko.
Now, are you ready? Not the sarcasm. Speak facts and move on. That simple. Go ahead.
It's not sarcastic. It's literal. All right. Even progressives know, even Bernie Sanders know, even my friends who agree with you on healthcare, they understand that it's an individual mandate that funds it. It's you being forced to pay it via, yes, they're going to say it's out of your taxes. Yeah, they're going to say it's going to save you money. I understand the philosophy. Yeah, you're going to pay here and you're going to save in the long run. I get it. Even Bernie knows, dude. If you ask him, how are you going to fund it? Are you going to fund it by letting millions of people opt out of it? No, it's a mandatory fee in the taxes. Of course, they're going to justify where they get it from. But what you're saying, not only are you interrupting me, not only are you not letting me speak, not only are you being extremely rude, but you're actually 100% false. And you could probably Google it or DuckDuckGo it in 5 minutes after this and realize I'm not even right. That's how they get the funding. You can argue that it's cheaper. You can argue that it's going to save me money in the long run because I need healthcare. But the truth is,
what you're saying is, as a question, you're saying I should Google or DuckDuckGo it, but you don't even know what source you're getting this from, is what you're saying. You're telling me I could even ask Bernie. I know I work with Bernie and I've worked with his people, including the people in the Sanders Institute who construct the Medicare for all legislation. So that's why I'm asking you. Okay. So where's your source is what I'm asking.
Reality. I mean, do you want me to get 50 sources? Here's the thing.
My God. Let me would be fine.
All right, let me say So with Obamacare, Trump repealed the individual mandate. He did this. Obamacare still half in. He repealed the individual mandate, which allows me this year to not pay for healthcare and save $2,000 to $5,000 minimum. Name a left-leaning person from progressive to establishment that wanted him to do that. I don't know a single one. Let me know that.
I actually was avidly for it. I actually celebrated in a video, and multiple people did. My issue was not that he repealed the mandate. My issue was that he said he was going to find a way to give healthcare to everybody, and he failed miserably in doing so. So like that was my issue. But I'm a progressive and I'm quote unquote left leaning. Repealing the mandate was the best thing that he could have possibly done at the time, instead of keeping it the way it was, because Obamacare is complete and total trash. So and Obamacare isn't liked by most of the left, which is why Medicare for all is preferred by 67% of the country. So that's why I'm trying to understand your logic here. You keep trying to generalize and say the left.
I'm just saying individual mandate from Obamacare, which establishment and I agree, fake Republicans and Koch brothers passed, to the progressive left, all of their health policies. That's what I'm saying. I understand that you don't understand because you're like, no, it's not big. All leftist ideology is big government. It's all you're giving the entire health industry to the government, and it's coming out of taxes. Where do taxes come from? They come from people who work and pay taxes. That's money, and they don't let you opt out, because if they allowed people to opt out, just like taxes, there'd be no money. Taxes is an individual mandate. It's a forced payment for a war. I don't want to pay this much taxes to go start a war. That's what taxes are, and that's what healthcare. It's going to be part of the tax.
If you're trying to argue that individual mandate is a federal tax, then I guess but I mean, why don't you just say federal tax then? Because that's what I mean. We already pay federal taxes. Your taxes would not grow. That's what I'm trying to. Whatever you pay right now to federal taxes, would literally not grow.
All right,
what I'm telling you.
I'm just gonna read the definition because you probably never heard it. That's why you're so upset.
Probably, yeah. I guess, yeah.
An individual mandate is a requirement by law for a certain person to purchase or otherwise obtain a good or service. So that's literally by definition. That's what Obamacare was, and that's what it would be. Of course, you could say he's going to rearrange the taxes and it's going to be cheaper in the long run. You could say it's better healthcare and you're going to have coverage that is better. But that's literally what it is. It's an individual mandate. That means.
Do you understand what the individual mandate was under Obamacare, just by curiosity? I feel like the way you keep describing it to me, you don't know what the individual mandate was.
It was them forcing me to buy it. Just like Bernie Sanders, it's healthcare for all. Here's the healthcare. You have it. It's yours. But those are two different definitions. The individual mandate that you're trying to associate with Medicare for all is the total opposite of the individual mandate you're trying to associate with Obamacare. I'm not saying Obamacare and Bernie Sanders care is the same.
But I'm saying the way you're trying to use the term individual mandate.
Individual mandates, bro.
But they're not. The way you're trying to associate individual mandate for Obamacare, individual mandate for Obamacare is actually referring to the tax penalty itself. If you have Obamacare through private insurance, then you will not have to pay an individual mandate as a penalty. That's how it's used. With with Medicare for all, as far as Bernie's Medicare for all is concerned, the quote unquote individual mandate that you're referring to is something that you literally pay into it right now. It's not a left thing. It's not a right thing. It just is. In fact, it was a right winger who actually introduced the federal income tax. So there's that. But the idea that paying federal taxes as they're currently structured, by the way, they're currently structured like this. The idea that paying federal tax is an individual mandate and that's the only way we can get Medicare for all is if an individual mandate is implemented. Like, it doesn't make any sense. We're already paying this. Bernie's saying like, hey, we're literally it's costing the American people money as we speak. It's actually costing you money to not have healthcare right now. Even though you're paying federal taxes, where under Bernie's plan, you would have healthcare under the taxes you're paying right now, you would have healthcare because you don't have healthcare.
I don't want healthcare, Niko. I want to save.
That's a personal. What I'm saying is you would not have to spend any more money. What is so hard to understand about that? I don't get it.
Have you heard the term individual mandate before today? Because it sounds like you have no.
Bro, I used to work in the healthcare industry. I know it. Do you know it? Have you heard of the term Medicare for all before today? I can read you the damn blurb if you want.
Niko.
I got the facts if you want them. But it seems like you don't want to accept the facts. So you're like, do you know what individual mandate is? Really, anomaly? Come on, bro. Come on. If you don't know what words mean, then don't use them. But it seems to me that you don't know what the word means.
Niko, all right. Under Obamacare, there was an individual mandate.
I know what Obamacare. You can keep repeating yourself, but we're talking about Medicare for all.
Trump repealed it, and if they passed Bernie's healthcare, there would be an individual.
No, there wouldn't. Where would the penalty be? How would there be a penalty? Please explain this to me. What would be the penalty? Because that's what the individual mandate from Obamacare is referring to. I know because I help people get through the individual mandate and around the individual mandate daily. Okay. So explain to me how there would be an individual mandate. No, you ain't gonna dodge it. Explain it.
I'm not. I'm saying this is a fundamental different from libertarian to progressive, which is why we're having this debate. Under Bernie Sanders healthcare, it's healthcare for all. You can't opt out. That money is coming, whether he claims that he's redistributing it and he saves money, or it doesn't work out long term and it raises the price, just like Obamacare said, you can keep your doctor, it's not going to go up. All false. It's an individual mandate. I can't opt out. I can't say to the government, that chunk of my taxes, I don't want to pay.
That's not what a mandate means. A mandate doesn't mean you can't opt out. That's not what a mandate means. A mandate is a responsibility.
An individual mandate is a requirement by law for a certain person to purchase or otherwise obtain a good or service. It's what.
Okay, that's what I'm saying. It isn't a mandate. It's like
that's what your term means, bro. That's
you're doing these huge logical leaps that don't make any sense.
I'm reading the dictionary, bro. An individual mandate is a requirement by law for a certain person to purchase or otherwise obtain a good or service. You can say that you.
I'm talking about policy. I know what you're trying to say.
No, but
the dictionary is a thing. I'm talking about as it is currently.
You can say you agree with it.
Policy. What do you think an individual? I'm not talking about Obamacare. Under Medicare for all, there is no individual mandate because you're not individually required to pay something different because of the type of healthcare you have or don't have. Because under Medicare for all, healthcare is just a thing. It isn't like you have to think about paying for it. You walk to the goddamn doctor, you leave. If you don't want to use it, go ahead and not use it. But your money is inconsequential when it comes to Medicare for all. Therefore, it is not an individual mandate. Listen. Your money, your personal finances are inconsequential to Medicare for all.
All right, you ready? So you can agree, you can say, I think it's a good idea. I think it's going to save you money, but you're literally, you don't even understand the term. Like it is an individual mandate. You could say it's saving you money, but you're honestly, you're making a fool, bro. It is an individual mandate.
Bro. Well, first you asked me if I know the term. I'm like, yeah, I literally worked in a health. I work in health insurance specifically. I help people get around the individual mandate regularly. The individual mandate that you're referring to does cost people money. And that was your entire premise to begin with. That was what you were arguing, was that you save the money by not having the individual mandate while you're trying to kiss Trump's ass.
All right, let me talk.
What I'm telling you is the entire individual mandate that you're trying to make doesn't make
Niko, can I get 10 seconds in? Can I get 10 seconds in?
There's no rationality to what you're saying, is what I'm telling you. You can say, oh, you just don't know, you're making a point. But you don't know the individual mandate is in regards to the healthcare industry specifically.
Dear Lord.
So unless you know what that is, then We don't have anything to talk about because you don't know what an individual mandate is.
I get 10 seconds in? We good? All right.
Anomaly, speak. If you don't speak, to speak. You want to be a dickhead? I can be a dickhead right back at your ass. But
Nikko,
let's not play that game. So if you want to speak, speak.
I'm not.
If you want to speak,
bro. I'm asking.
If you want to speak, to speak. But don't be. You want to be a dickhead? I can play the sarcastic asshole game right along with you.
No one's being sarcastic, dude. This is all being.
Okay,
I'm not. I'm. You say that, but you won't stop talking.
That's it. Just speak.
Okay, the difference between a libertarian and a progressive, which is why we're having this debate, is I believe in freedom and personal liberty to not have to buy a service and obtain a good. That's what an individual mandate literally is. You're yelling at me. You're saying it's going to save you money. You're saying that it's not an individual mandate, which is why I don't really like progressive policies anymore, because they try to shove it down your throat, say that it's not happening, and say it's going to save you money and it's going to make your life better. But I want the freedom to be able to say, I don't want that health plan. I don't want to do that.
Then don't go to the doctor. You do have the freedom. Don't go to the damn doctor.
Now,
I don't understand. What is so hard to comprehend about that?
Dude,
I don't get it. What is so hard to comprehend about that? Explain that to me, please. Don't go to the damn doctor, Anomaly. It's that simple. Nobody is forcing you to go to the doctor.
Because there's not Bernie Sanders healthcare or Obama's care. They take the money.
No. That's not trying to lie about Obamacare and Medicare for all together, because it's not the same thing. And if you think it's even close to the same thing, you have a fundamental misunderstanding of both of the policies.
They have one similarity, and it's called an individual mandate.
No, they don't have. I'm literally looking at the Sanders Institute right now. You can go. Everybody who is watching right now, make sure you go to www.sandersinstitute.com. Go to the healthcare fact sheet, and you all tell me where it says individual mandate.
This is really.
Tell me where it's. So facts are embarrassing.
They're not writing it, bro. It's a term. It's like, are they? That's what it is.
First you told me I could Google it, and now I said, okay, everybody, let's Google it together. All of a sudden, it's embarrassing.
Because it's not on the Sanders Institute. Because it's not on the Sanders Institute page.
Because that's the. Are we not talking about Medicare for all? Are we not talking about Bernie Sanders Medicare for all? Is the Sanders Institute not a think tank that orchestrates policy? What?
We're talking about healthcare for all, not Medicare for all.
We just said Medicare for all. That's what we said. You said Sanders Medicare for all when you were comparing it to Trump's repeal of the mandate and then Obamacare. So don't try to change it. Don't move the goalpost. Don't be the neoliberal that you always complain about. Okay, don't move the goalpost now.
Nikko,
Sanders Medicare for all.
I'm not saying they're the same healthcare. I'm saying they have a similarity, which is true. Libertarians, and honestly, Trump right now, he understands that, and he wants people to have the freedom to not have to buy healthcare, to not get a penalty, or to not have it taken out of their taxes one way or another. You can say that he's rearranging taxes and he's going to make it cheaper. I get it. That's his plan. That's his goal. But it's an individual mandate, meaning I don't have the option to opt out, and they're going to take that money out of taxes. They're not getting it out of thin air. You could say they're rearranging it, but yes, that's what it is. You have to buy it. It's not the same as Obamacare. I'll give you that. It could be way better, but it does have an individual mandate, dude. And I'm not comparing it in that's two similarities that they have that I personally don't like. You don't have to agree with me, but that's my libertarianism. I don't want to be. No, you're.
First of all, you're not even a real libertarian. First of all, like, let's just go ahead and call it a spade a spade. I'm not saying that you're not some idea or some kind of mixture.
Libertarian,
but at the end of the day, you're more of a contrarian than a libertarian, because now I'm even telling you, let's go look at the facts, and you are upset. You're saying, you literally said you can Google it. Okay, I said let's go to Sanders Institute then, because that's literally where Medicare for all information is, and then that's
his
embarrassing,
website, bro. He's not. They don't even when Trump repealed the individual mandate, they didn't say, "Hey, this is going to save people $2,000 to $5,000." They made it seem like it's the end of the world. Oh my God, the whole world is melting. Millions of people are going to.
I operate in the world of facts. Who is
but I'm saying just because it's not on his website, they don't explain the bad sides of it. Just like on Trump's website, you're not going to find, hey, these are all the consequences of what I'm doing.
About the
He's not going to tell you can't opt out.
I'm not arguing.
It doesn't sound
it doesn't reprehensibility. I'm arguing facts.
It doesn't
sound talking about good or bad. You're talking about good or bad.
It doesn't sound
about facts and numbers, and that's it. Facts and numbers. If it's good or bad, we will never know.
You don't have the fact. You're embarrassing yourself because you don't even understand.
Then you go to Sanders Institute then, because apparently the facts that I'm staring at are unimportant. You're the one who
hear me out for 5 seconds, and then you can talk.
Did you not say Google it? Did you not say Google it?
Not to the Sanders, and I'm going to say Google to the.
Okay, so literally the think tank that orchestrated the think tank that orchestrated Anomaly. We don't want to go to his site.
bro.
We want to go to somewhere else. Literally, the person that you were talking about, let's not go to the think tank that is actually creating policy. Let's not go to that.
Nico, if you go to Trump's
I'm
website,
understand this.
Nico, if you go to Trump's website and he sells weapons to Saudi Arabia, do you think Trump's going to say, "Hey, these weapons might be used in a bad place"? No, it's not going to be on Sanders. It's not going to be on Sanders' website. Hey guys, we're going to steal your money and not let you opt out of it. He's not going to put it on his website, bro.
You're arguing morality. I'm not talking about morality right now.
No, I'm not, dude. You keep making these.
You can do the nervous laugh.
I'm not arguing.
You can do the nervous laugh. Yeah. You are nervous because I'm literally telling you, let's go to Google. We can take it to Google. We can take it to DuckDuckGo.
You're going to Sanders Institute, bro.
I'm not arguing morality. You're trying to argue good and bad. I'm not in the games of good and bad. I'm in the games of facts and numbers. You ask me, what does the policy actually say? This is what the policy of the man who would be implementing it actually says. These are the numbers they actually are that actually exist. Good or bad, these are the facts. You can't invent facts based off of what you believe to be true. Because if we want to do that, I can invent facts all day. It's fun to invent facts. I know, but you can't invent facts. It's not a good or bad. I'm saying there is no individual mandate as far as the health insurance industry is concerned, because that's what we were discussing from the very beginning. Is you were mad at Obama's mandate, Trump repealed the mandate, it worked out great for you.
I'm not mad at it. I just it cost me money, and just like Bernie Sanders would, dude. It's a force.
How much money would it cost you? How much money would it cost you? Tell me, please. Let me know.
What, under Bernie's?
Yeah, under Bernie's Medicare for All plan, how much money would it cost you?
Depends how much he's charging me per year, per month. I don't know. I'm being forced to buy the plan.
But you are swearing to God there's this individual mandate. Where are you pulling this from? Is what I'm asking.
Dude, if you asked Bernie, he would tell you that, dude. Like
I talked to Bernie. I talked to.
Why are you yelling?
I know because you're talking about. Ask Bernie. Why don't you just told me that his website, who is constructing the fucking policy, isn't good enough for you? But let me ask Bernie, who is going to tell me the same thing as his website. I'm trying to understand where you are getting the idea of this individual mandate that no one is seeing apparently but anomaly. That's what I'm trying to understand.
Dude, you don't understand what the term means.
Bernie
has a way, like when Bernie does something, he has, we're going to put millions of people into work and everyone's going to get health care. That's the pitch. That's the words. So now you look at the structure of it. Where's he going to get them? Well, it's going to be out of this part of your taxes. That's fine. I get it for sure. You're going to redistribute taxes. That's cool. It's an individual mandate, meaning everyone gets health care. Everybody gets taxed. The government controls the entire industry. So now, I don't like the government. They're so bad. They control the entire health industry and you can't opt out of it. That's what it is. You don't have a choice. There's no, I'm going to get this plan or that plan. It's healthcare for all. Everybody gets it. Everybody pays.
No idea what the individual mandate is in regards to a health.
I read the definition for times. It's a word, bro. I'm not comparing.
I know what Webster's is. Different. But what we're talking about is the individual mandate in regards to Obamacare. The reason you brought up the individual mandate specifically as a policy is because of how
it's not a policy. It's a
Bro, it's a term. Individual mandate was a policy. It was literally a fucking policy.
It's a term.
I'm not going to argue. You're literally trying to argue against reality now. It is a policy.
It's not a policy. It's a term. It's a word. It's a term.
You're trying to tell me that Trump repealed a word? He repealed a word is what you're saying.
No, he repealed part of his policy. It's not the entire policy. His entire policy was an individual mandate. It's part of his policy. His policy. Listen,
is a policy.
Nico, dude,
it's a policy.
You don't listen, bro. Obamacare was a policy. Part of the policy was the individual mandate. Bernie's healthcare for all is a policy. Part of the policy. And the terminology, the part of the policy, it literally means is a requirement by law for certain persons to purchase or obtain a good or service.
No, you're looking to what it is. You're trying to define Bernie Sanders Medicare for all legislation through Webster's dictionary. You're aware of this. But then, listen to the detraction that you just made. You just said
you don't
Obamacare's policy. No, Obamacare's policy.
It's not a policy.
Has Obama? Okay, so now Obamacare isn't a policy.
All right, good. Sorry, good.
You just said Obamacare's policy.
Yes.
Has the individual mandate listed in the policy.
I don't know if it's listed in the policy.
It is. Okay. It is.
It might not be on the website. They might say, well, it's coming out of your taxes.
No, it is a policy. You actually have to fill out a tax form. And I wish I could remember the damn name of it right now, but you actually have to fill out a tax form to be exempt from that mandate. And you have to have fill out a separate tax form to show that you have that you've met that requirement. So in the policy, it lists it as an individual mandate, and it goes out of its way in that policy to describe, as it pertains to Obamacare, this is the definition of an individual mandate. That is an important part of any legislation or policy, because words can mean different things under different circumstances, anomaly. So just going to Merriam-Webster dictionary and trying to say this is what it's going to mean for Medicare for all, it makes no logical sense.
Bro, that's
especially based off of your premise.
What if Bernie got in office, or he tries to pass his legislation, it's gonna, one way or another, no matter if he uses that term or uses a different term, he's going to tell you, Nikko, and he's going to tell everybody. He can say it's gonna save you money, and I'm gonna rearrange. He's gonna say, listen, Nikko, he's gonna say in that policy somewhere, whether it's on his website or in the legislation, here's where the money's coming from. Here's what you can do about it, and it's going to add up to you're paying for it out of your taxes, and there's no opt out. There's can Canada opt out?
Your only fact in this entire discussion is Webster's definition of what a mandate is.
No, that's not at all.
Because you haven't given me
in any country where there's healthcare, everyone pays into it, and it's not an option to not pay into it. It's part of their taxes. That's what an individual mandate is, Nikko. They pay for it, and they don't have an option.
So your entire argument, though, is that Medicare for all is going to introduce some new type of mandate. What you're not getting is that
Nikko,
any mandate that is already there, it's already existent in this system, in Trump's system, in Obama's system. It would not be any different under Bernie's system, is what you're not getting. So you're trying to say like an individual mandate. First of all, you're trying to introduce something into a policy.
Difference? You think there's no difference from Obamacare to Trump, what he's doing now? You think there's no difference?
I said that there is a mandate already to pay federal taxes, no matter who the hell is the president.
Agreed.
It's already there. With Obamacare,
and I don't like it.
With Obamacare, we paid more taxes, and if you didn't, and even still, we paid more in the individual mandate penalty at the end of every tax year if you didn't pay. Yes. So that was a problem. And then on top of that, remember, you were paying extra. It wasn't like it was your taxes were raised and you were paying extra for healthcare. So it wasn't like it was already included. Yes. Under Trump care, people were still paying extra, but they just get to choose. But they don't even really have a choice under Trump care either.
Or you can opt out. No, I do. Get a PPO. That's wrong. I'm opting out, and I'm saving $4,000.
You want to let me finish? I said you have a choice to not have healthcare. Doesn't mean you have an actual choice as to who your healthcare provider is. That's not true. You do not have a choice necessarily. Even I have TRICARE. I have the best health insurance in the world, and I still don't have as much of a choice as I used to have before Obamacare. Now, with Medicare for all, say if Obamacare never happened, if Trump never got in office and taxes were the same as they were under George Bush, guess how much you would pay extra for Bernie Sanders' healthcare plan?
How much, Nikko?
You wouldn't pay anything extra. Nothing. That's what I'm trying to explain. So this individual mandate that you were speaking of isn't actually an individual mandate. It will be more closely referred to as what we talk about in politics. It's the social contract, as it's an understood payment into certain goods and services. Like you don't call the public service system, your public transit system, like a subway or whatever, individual mandate. We don't call it that. When I lived in New York, we didn't call the MTA, oh man, look at this individual mandate come out of my paycheck. No, it's a social contract.
But it is an individual mandate. So you can call it a social contract. I get it. Like you're going to
use an individual mandate if the whole has to pay for it.
Yeah, if I'm forced to pay for goods or services, by definition, that is an individual mandate. I get it. Bernie uses different. He uses different words.
He's literally not forcing you to pay for anything, is what I'm explaining.
If they force me to pay my taxes,
I don't even understand what your ultimate goal of this discussion is. Because at first, you keep forgetting the fact that the whole reason we brought this up was because you were talking about how much money you saved under Trump repealing the individual mandate, because Obamacare's individual mandate was indeed criminal. It was a criminal individual mandate.
If you call it a social contract, it's also it is an individual mandate. Every bit of money that my taxes pay for that I'm not choosing for, those are all individual mandates. If you want to call what Bernie's doing a social contract, that's fine. But this whole 20-minute argument, this whole circular 20-minute argument, which made no sense, that social contract is an individual mandate, whether you want to say it or not.
It's not even a circular discussion, because the whole thing was, oh, I saved money, therefore Trump's plan is great because there's no individual mandate. That was your whole argument, is because there was money saved, which I would have agreed, that part, I agree with 100% actually, like I said in the beginning. But then you start going this tangent trying to prove what leftists and progressives do, and we all want people to pay more money for things, and that's not true. It's a sensationalized, propagandized, it's bullshit is what it is, to be quite frank.
I don't know, Nico, I don't think you want to do that. I'm just saying every time your mouth stops talking, that's what happens. You say you're doing all this stuff, it's not a mandate, it's a contract, but then when your mouth stops and legislation comes, yes, it is higher taxes, yes, it is bigger businesses, yes, it is a fine for me, it always is, and it took you 30 minutes. It took you 30 minutes.
We've had 5 progressives in the legislature.
I don't want to have to yell over you.
We've had 5
Nico, it took you 30 minutes to understand that an individual mandate is a social contract. It took you 30 minutes, bro. This is why you're not getting it.
I didn't have to, bro. I know the individual mandate. I worked in the health insurance industry. You don't know what an individual mandate is.
Nico,
you don't know the policies. You literally said the individual mandate under Obama.
You're screaming at yourself.
It took you policy. Oh, Nico, I'm definitely. You're right. I'm screaming at myself because you don't understand.
Can I talk for 30 minutes?
All right. You do not have. It's like you don't understand this coming. Like you don't. You literally argue that Obama that the individual mandate was not a policy. Like, think about that.
It's not.
Like, you're being ridiculous
part of a policy,
try and prove your point instead of just acknowledging facts, saying, okay, I agree with this. We don't know for a fact whether this is going to happen or not, but I can agree with this. I disagree with this, and then move on. You want to argue with facts.
Individual mandate's a term, and it's part of a policy. It's not his policy.
No, it is a term in Obamacare specifically defined by the legislation itself, because that's how legislation works. I don't know if you've ever seen legislation before, as you like to say, but that's how legislation works.
Nico,
terms have to be
specifically ridiculous,
defined. No. I had to explain to you how legislation works makes me look ridiculous.
It took you 30 minutes. It took you 30 minutes to realize that a social contract is an individual mandate. It took you 30 minutes, bro.
And you don't understand policy. I get it. Man, everybody went to school for it. Understood.
Make a statement and let me speak, bro, because you're literally just making these loop arguments that don't even.
You're trying to make the arguments that you say, because the whole thing was, I don't like progressives because they're trying to take my money that I have in my pocket right now, and I would spend more money.
And Nico,
that factually is not the case. You have no proof to back this statement up. You have 100 years of neoliberal, neoconservative policies that you're trying to lump in to a progressive policy that has never been implemented in the United States.
Dude, can you make all right. I explained exactly. It took you 30 minutes to realize that an individual mandate is a social contract. And all those things that you mentioned, yes, they're an individual mandate or a social contract, whatever you want to call them. Yes, it's real. I understand all of these grandiose things you want to do, from save me money. But every time, and I get that maybe we haven't gone far enough left for you, but every time the mouth stops moving about how much it's going to help me, it costs me money. It costs me more tax money. It's something that I can't opt out of. I don't want it. They're like, you take this, it's a social contract, you want it? No, I don't. Do I want to pay for all this stuff? No, they steal my money in California. They don't build roads. They don't pay teachers. They don't pay polices. They're squandering all of the money. So yes, that's an individual mandate. And no, I don't agree with almost any.
How is that the left? Out of curiosity, because that's probably my biggest critique of everything you're saying.
Yeah.
Stop pretending shit is the left, because it is both the left and the right. When money is wasted, it has been traditionally both the left and the right.
I agree. I will say this.
The right progressive policies. We haven't even seen progressive policies implemented. Like, it's not supposed to make any sense. You're not using history. You're not using experience. You're just using your bias to try and justify. Go ahead.
All right. I'm not a fan of the right. They tax too much and they do too much stuff for me. I'm just saying it's obvious. Even if you agree with it, it's fine. The further left you go, the more they want the government.
Hold up. You keep saying the further left you go. Do you know what the left means? Do you know what being a left is? What is liberalism? Do you even know what that means? Out of curiosity.
Do you want me to say what I think left and right?
No. What is liberalism? Do you know what actually being on the left means?
Can I answer the original question of what is left to right? So on an economic scale, it's all been skewed socially and people lie about it all the time. But if you go far enough right, it's anarchy. There's no government. The further libertarian, it's way less government. You go center, democracy, whatever they call it, republic. You go left, then it's blah, whatever the Democratic Party is now, socialism, communism. So the further left you go, it's more government
control. That's the stupidest shit I've ever heard before in my life. Socialism and communism, if you want to be actually correct in your application of left and right.
Can you make an argument without yelling?
Do you want me to talk to you? My mic is loud. I'm not speaking loud. This is how I speak normally in all my videos, and anybody in your comments can let you know that. Don't take it personally. That's just how it is. It's a good ass mic. Secondly, left and liberalism is the furthest thing from quote unquote communism, because communism, as you understand it, not the real definition, but as you personally understand it, actually is control of the means of production by the government. That is actually not what communism is, but that's not the definition people want to go with, so whatever. Leftism, it comes from laissez-faire politics. Liberalism, laissez-faire politics, all that is in the left. In other words, we're tired of people like the government trying to control who can and can't have babies, who can and can't get married. All that shit you think is libertarian was originally leftist. But the definition got skewed and changed and blurred. And so people like yourself come up spitting propaganda talking about the left and what progressives want, and progressives causing all these problems. And it's actually both sides of the establishment fence. Most people who get it right figure out something in the middle and they go with it. The government should not be totally not involved, because that's how you have the situation where we had in the late 1900s with, or excuse me, the early 1900s and the late 1800s with the Gilded Age, with the age of the monopolies like JP Morgan Chase and all those people, Rockefeller. But also you do have to have some consensus of control, which is why there is supposed to be more delegates. We're supposed to vote on delegates like every year or every other year, then vote on our representatives, then vote on our senators. And our system is being completely botched so that we now have to put way too much control in the states legislators, and we still have to put way too much control in the federal government's legislatures. You will never hear me argue against that. But you trying to make the disingenuous assertion that somehow progressivism and the left always thinks this, but when they close their mouth, legislation does something different. You can't name me one piece of progressive legislation that has been passed. I know because I haven't seen one, and I'm a progressive. If you can name me,
no, you guys don't do anything. You guys just talk. You never win. You never.
Now we have. So first we don't do anything, but before we were passing legislation,
I'm saying 0% success rate. It's never worked.
Oh, how many legislations have libertarians passed? Out of curiosity,
I'm not curious. I'm not a team player. I'm just saying.
Oh, okay.
Socialism, communism, never happened.
So zero.
I'm not. It's
when
not
does libertarianism happen? When does libertarianism
happen? It doesn't.
When does libertarianism happen?
I'm just saying.
When does it happen? Answer the question. Don't dodge again.
What happened? What do you ask?
When has libertarianism ever been successfully implemented in the government?
At our founding?
No, that's not true. That's not true. The founding, we're a democratic republic, economically and otherwise.
I'm not a diehard libertarian. I'm just saying I think on an economic scale we need to go further right. I think we're way too far left on an economic
further right
scale.
Means more control by the government. You're aware of that?
Oh, that's bro.
Oh, that's interesting. I live in Florida where our government is right wing. I have a question. Who was it that implemented the CIA, which has the government and everything? You know who the Dulles brothers are?
Dude, both parties are co-opted. I'm not. You're acting like no,
I'm not talking about parties. I'm not talking about parties, so don't play that bullshit. Don't twist my words. Don't put words in my mouth. I said which ideology, left or right, implemented the CIA? I answer your question. It's the right. What is the right? The CIA, the NSA, the FBI, all right wing. What do they do more than anything else? Government overreach. Who implemented the Patriot Act?
Which I don't agree with. It doesn't.
Okay.
Just because they come up the right or the left, it doesn't matter.
So once again, stop trying to pretend and engage in this false dichotomy of policy that's a left and a right thing. It's neoconservative, neoliberal at best.
Let's talk about right now. Let's talk about right now, Nikko. What I'm saying with progressives is I understand that you guys don't like the government. I understand that you want to make it smaller, but almost every policy that you guys implement is bigger government.
Name four right now.
Universal health care is putting the entire health industry into the hands of the federal government.
That's one singular situation. Go ahead.
Everything we do in California, every single thing we do.
No, we're talking about the federal government right now. We're talking about the federal government. Yes or no? That's what we were just discussing. So the federal government, name three more. I said name four. You got universal health care. I'm glad. That's the right wing go-to all the time. So name three more.
It's not a go-to. What policy do you have that isn't? What policy do you have that's smaller government?
No, you made the claim now. Don't try and double back and flip it. You made the claim. Name three more. Name three more progressive policies that cause
$15 an hour minimum wage is forcing every person.
Oh, it's not forcing. It's not forcing anything. The minimum wage is already
big government. Who's going to raise it though? Who's going to raise it?
The Labor Act is already a thing. It's already a thing. The Labor Act is already a thing. That's what you're not understanding. So it's not like progressives are advocating. We're advocating to respect the policies that we already have in place as far as $15 an hour minimum wage. So that's already a thing.
That's big government, though. That's not free market.
You're saying the policies that we're trying to create, like we're not trying to create. The only thing that the $15 an hour minimum wage is trying to do is literally to make sure the policy that has already been proven to be successful and has already been implemented is still implemented, and we're following it. Because when we haven't followed it, right now we have the biggest deviation from production to income in history. amongst middle class, which is why income inequality right now is the worst it's ever been. So we're just asking to follow the policy that's already there. We're not asking to create a new policy. So what policy are we trying to create?
Every policy that progressives want to push further, maybe you didn't create it, but it's always going to big government, more overreach, more regulations, more.
How? What?
How is it not, dude?
You can't make. No, don't say how is it not. Give me examples. You never give me. You give me one lone example.
I'm saying that put the health industry into the head.
But what are the other 3 policies, Anomaly, that you claim? Because I can tell you right now, we're against abortion. We want the fucking government out of people's wombs. That's progressive. Okay, cool.
Right. I want to ask about that. I'm glad you brought that up. Let's talk about it.
I want to address this first because you're not going to move the goalposts after you just try to claim once again with another blank of false.
I'm not moving the goalposts, Nikko.
That you're trying to move the goal. We're not talking about.
Let's talk about this.
We're going to talk about the fact where I don't want big progressives in general, but me personally, I don't want the government determining who gets to have and who gets to not have a baby, who gets to have an abortion.
I'm glad you brought that up, Nikko. And if you don't give me 20 seconds to talk about it,
you literally just said you couldn't give me the policies. Then you asked me to give you policies.
But you brought up one of the most important topics of our time, bro.
But now you're giving. Now that I'm giving you the policies, you want to switch.
No, we can go right back to it. I'm just saying you brought this up,
and then we can move on to abortion. Because I want to make sure that you are thoroughly understand.
Oh, bro, this is more important. This is more important. All right.
It's not more important. You're not going to try to change the subject because you're wrong. Because that's what you're basically getting exposed.
Because
we don't want the government determining who
you have anger and listening problems, brother.
We don't want the government determining who cannot have a baby, who cannot cannot have an abortion.
Nikko,
we don't want the government determining unilaterally
do I have to mute you to get a point in, or are you gonna let me talk for 2 seconds?
So basically what you're saying, you're wrong. So just admit you're wrong.
No, you don't let me talk. All right.
So just admit you were wrong. I asked you 10 times what policies.
I'm giving you a 10-second warning. Nikko, I'm giving you a 10-second warning.
So you don't know. Go ahead, move on to abortion.
I'm going to make for 20 seconds, and if you interrupt me...
Move on to abortion. You were wrong. Move on. Abortion. Go.
Nikko,
you were wrong. Move on. Abortion. Go.
Nikko,
I'm giving you a chance to move on to your abortion. Go. You going to rage quit? I gave you an option to tell me 5 times. Give me the policies. Give me the policies.
All right, and then you want to move on to abortion. I told you, $15 an hour, $15 an hour.
That is all. $15 hour minimum wage is not a policy. It is already a thing.
Give me a chance to say anything. I'll talk about the other thing you asked me to, but you won't let me. I'm trying to, Nikko, but you won't be, which is why I told you earlier. Dude, I'm gonna have to
reject all you like, but you can move on to abortion.
I can use other examples unless we want to talk about it.
Go ahead.
And then I'm talking about abortion. All right. So $15 an hour minimum wage, it's forcing people to do stuff on behalf of what the government wants. I don't know where you are in the Second Amendment, but I don't know a single liberal or progressive besides, I don't even know about Tulsi. They want more regulation and more laws in that sense. In universal health care, that's big government, that's bigger. Nikko, you won't even let me answer. You don't even let me answer.
What does the Second Amendment say? What does the Second Amendment say?
The right to bear arms. I don't know the
exact. Right to bear arms as necessary for a well-regulated militia. Do we even have militia right now?
Yes.
No, we don't. No, we don't. Teddy Roosevelt disbanded.
Teddy
Roosevelt disbanded them, and now what would be in the past known as a militia became federalized under the National Guard. By the way, another right wing. Teddy Roosevelt was right wing. Just in case you're curious. So
you don't think we have militias? You don't think we have militias?
State-sponsored militias. It has literally been outlawed. So you're gonna argue with me about laws now?
You don't think we have militias in this country?
Jesus. You're gonna argue about laws now? All right, go ahead. Continue.
All right. Can I talk about abortion or because I can't even talk about that stuff? All right. So I wanted to talk about this at the beginning. In abortion.
Say it again. You're faded out.
I used to be pro-choice, and then I realized what abortion was. I looked at first, second, and third trimester. You have almost all left-leaning people, not to group you guys in, but you guys are all for woman's choice. She has the right to do whatever. A baby has a heartbeat at 4 to 6 weeks. In third trimester, it can see, it has limbs.
I know all the facts.
And do you think a woman can just slaughter that out of her womb if she wants to? Now you're a libertarian?
No. Before you said it was that I wanted the government in everybody's business, but now I say no, I don't. And now your argument is, oh, well, you're gonna try to use a moral appeal, the same moral appeal that you hate when the left does,
Bro, no, I'm
to justify why not you want the government involved. That's interesting.
There's government. I mean, murder is against the law. I agree with that. I'm not an anarchist. That's against the law. So now you're a libertarian when it comes to murder. You guys want to libertarian now. You realize
you can try to manipulate it however you want to. We can go fact for fact. I know you don't like facts. I know you don't like facts. I can tell you why abortion, when it's necessary for people to live, for the mother to live, because the mother doesn't live, there's a good chance that both the child and the mother might die. I can tell you, we can go all day about that. We can go with the facts, but I don't know.
Can I ask you a question, bro? You haven't been calm in like an hour. Can I ask you a question, and then we could go on a thing to thing?
I don't have to be calm for you. I'm a grown ass man. So are you. I don't got to be calm. The facts are the facts.
Yeah, but
I'm not a calm. I'm not a calm guy. I'm not a calm guy.
Anger and emotion doesn't make a valid argument.
You don't have the capability to make me angry, bro. I'm not gonna lie to you. You don't have the ability. You do have the ability to irritate the shit out of me with stupid ass comments, but you ain't got the ability to make me.
I've been calm for 35 minutes now, but I want to say in the third trimester, these are facts. A baby literally has limbs. A baby literally.
Who is getting aborted? Do you know how many states have abortion in the third trimester? Out of curiosity.
New York does. They're pushing for it. Beto says that he's pro third trimester abortion, and pretty much every Democrat and progressive is at best silent on it and won't say a single thing about it, or at worst support it.
Based off of what? Where do you get this logic from? I don't get it.
Bro, I'm big.
No one advocates for third. Like there are people.
It's legal. No, it's legal now. It's
where it's federally legal to have third trimester abortions. Federally.
Not federally, but in New York it is.
So in one state, in one microcosm, in one unique situation that, by the way, most progressives don't agree with, or would be implemented in every single quote unquote blue state across the country. Third trimester abortions are not the same thing as someone getting an abortion in the first 4 to 6 weeks. 1, 2. The third trimester.
I'm asking you where you stand on it. I'm asking you where you stand on it.
My opinion, from what I've read, the third trimester abortion in New York was legalized because, in special circumstances, where the mother and the child were at risk of death or other complications.
Yeah. Can I answer that? Because I looked into that bill. So that was one of the clauses, but it also said in cases of mental health, and considering we're a very mentally unhealthy country, it pretty much justifies it for anything. So kind of like they say with their words, oh, it's only for women who are hurt. But you talk to abortion doctors, that's almost never the case. You can get a C-section and the baby can live in many cases. And you said it, name a pro-life. Yeah. Name a pro-life Democrat or progressive who will speak about this and be like, hey, like this is a little bit too far.
Pro-life is taking a stance on whether or not you should be or should not be allowed to do something autonomous with your body. That's supposedly that's not a progressive wants the government all up in our shit. But now you're telling me you want it in their shit when it's convenient for your argument and your moral.
When it has a limb, no, when it's murder at that point. It has limbs, it's breathing.
It's not,
in the third trimester, it's breathing.
I'm not going to argue with you.
In the first trimester, it has a heartbeat. It has a heartbeat of 4 to 6 weeks.
Third trimester, I'm not going to argue with you whether something is living or breathing. I'm not going to argue with you.
Let's go first trimester though. First trimester, heartbeat at 4 to 6 weeks.
It wouldn't be a cell. If it's a cell, it has a heartbeat. If it has a nucleus, it has a heartbeat. Necessarily having a heartbeat doesn't mean you're alive. Like it doesn't mean that you are a sentient being. And if mental health issues are as such, have you ever heard of postpartum depression?
Wait, so having a heartbeat doesn't mean you're alive.
Postpartum, it doesn't mean you're a sentient being. Do you know what postpartum depression is?
Absolutely.
So you know that babies have been killed, suffocated over postpartum depression because of mental health issues that were not addressed, especially in the South, where abortion is widely almost illegal completely in a lot of red states. Once again, the right trying to control people. But you don't have a problem with that. But my issue is, once again, the inconsistency.
You don't think a growing baby with a heartbeat is a sentient being? You don't think that's a sentient being?
Not a growing baby. Do you know what a sentient being is? Go to Webster. I know you already got it pulled up. Look up what sentient being is.
Let me know. What do you consider a sentient being?
Go to Webster. Tell me what a sentient being is, and then we can continue. I want you to think I'm cutting you off. I want you to think I'm thinking you're stupid. I don't want to have any misunderstanding as to what it is. Figure it out. Tell me what your
All right.
operative definition is, and then we can go off of that.
All right, we'll read it straight out. So in Buddhism, it says sentient beings are beings with conscious sentience or some context life itself. Sentient beings are composed of 5 aggregate skandhas: matter, sensation, perception, mental formations, and consciousness.
So basically, you have to be able to form conscious, cohesive thoughts autonomously. In other words, you're making the conscious choice to think things. If you are in the 3rd trimester, even the 2nd trimester, I would agree with that. But you're not going to convince me at 6 weeks because something has a
that's fun. And now that you're calm, you're a lot more fun and a lot more likable. But that's all I wanted to hear, because it's a compliment. But it's the 2nd and 3rd trimester really bugs me out. If people want to make the argument for the first, that's fine. But the 2nd and 3rd thing is really, really bugging me, and I appreciate you saying that. To me, that's progress. You can't get it all. I'm not going to sit here and argue about that, but
my thing, I don't personally like abortions. Personally, I don't like it. But as my ideology, however, as far as the government is concerned, you already said the government doesn't make correct decisions. On top of that, you've already conceded that they propagandize often. They exaggerate and hyperbolize often. And you're using information that is funded by certain groups in certain situations.
No, that's not true.
But I'm saying the logic. So the logic and the spin on it is New York wants 3rd trimester abortions, but it's like, no,
that's true though, Nikko. Listen,
but the context behind it is there are a lot of, especially because unfortunately New York is a very cancerous environment. In case people don't know, I just moved from there. Like, they have two of the largest cancer rates in the country, or 2 counties with the largest cancer rates in the country. So there are a lot, because of that and other things, there are a lot of complications that come with pregnancies that you can't see or develop until the 3rd trimester, because that is around the time that a baby becomes a sentient being. That is a different. And so if you sense a complication that could literally kill either the baby or the mother, would you rather the baby be born and suffer immediately and then potentially kill the mother? Or like, that's what I'm trying to understand. Like, what is
that's right? That's already been a thing. This legislation they passed, they used that as the scapegoat, and they added in mental health to make it so broad that pretty much people can 3rd trimester abort for any reason. Like, they made it that broad. I know that you think they didn't, but they did. And my thought is, you think it's propagandized because they want to do this. I think they're making a lot of money off these body parts. I mean, depending, the further along you go, when a baby is aborted, they have this stuff and they use it. Even
because human trafficking, organ trafficking is a thing. So I'm not going to disagree with that.
So I think that's why they're doing it. And also, I appreciate that you understand that 2nd and 3rd trimester is sketchy at best. That's all I'm asking, because with certain things, we can have a conversation about individual mandates in healthcare. We can have conversations about big government, small government, left and right. That's fine. But at the end of the day, common sense, love, and truth, even on, I'm not an anarchist. Like, I don't think people should murder. I'm glad we have some laws and regulations for sure. But I appreciate that you say that, because my problem is that people are getting so lost in policies and politics now that they're not understanding basic common sense and basic, like, human nature, where it's like, that's how they get over at you. They use women's choice, women's rights. They use these words. And on the other side, for sure, they have their propaganda terms as well, but they use that. And next thing you know, you have millions of women marching to murder babies or take away rights from themselves, or they're in the streets.
You say things like, oh, millions of women marching to murder babies. That's literally not what they're doing. You have to understand from a woman's perspective as well, because it's easier for you to say it from a high horse, talk about everything that you would do if you were a woman. But many women have complications, have dealt with complications, or know someone who has dealt with this. And that's why they're so passionate about it, because what you have to understand on the other side of the aisle, which is
Nikko, but there's there's millions of women who march for pro-life too. I get it. It's a debate. I'm not debating that.
On the other side of the aisle, there are literally people, not people, entire states that will not let you do it, even if it would kill you. That's what I'm trying to help you understand, is that you're trying to say, well, the government, this is the one thing that should get involved in my opinion. If you want to call it libertarian, I call it more common sense. Let individual senators or whatever determine as to whether or not, and individuals themselves determine as to whether or not they want to get an abortion. Like, in 3rd trimester, that's a whole different situation. And I do believe that, based off of all the information we have available, that they are sentient beings. So I agree with that 100%. But if you're talking about anything before that, and even in that situation where a life can be put in danger, then the government shouldn't be determining whether or not someone can bring a life into this world or not bring a life into this world, or whatever, whatever. Like
If it was, yeah, if it was life in danger, I agree with you, but I don't think that that's the case. They made it extremely broad for a reason, and even before that legislation, if it's a life or death situation, there's always that's what doctors do. They use that as the scapegoat to push this through, and then added mental health, which is very broad and allows it. Well, okay, I'm depressed. I don't want this baby. Let's kill it in the third trimester. Put it up for abortion. You know, what I'm saying? If you're gonna wait that long, it's ridiculous. So, I hear what you're saying, but that's
are you going to put it up for abortion? Because if you're like going through depression or whatever, you're going to ups and downs. So if you're bipolar and you're up, like, I really want this baby because your endorphins are high. You're high on, you just created a new life. It does something to you. But then when you get home, you have to deal with the consequences of reality. And that person was still mentally unstable.
Yeah, but if you wait till the third trimester, you waited too long. You got to have the baby, and like it's like just because you're depressed, you can't go murder someone.
But you have to understand, if we had Medicare for all, for example, a lot of people would be able to determine whether or not they had mental health issues prior to it. I mean, and that's a whole different discussion. But
And I want to see what you say about this. Here's what really worries me about two of these things. So with universal health care or Medicare for all, now you have government control over the health industry where they make it hard to opt out, whether I'm saving money or not. They make it nearly, if not impossible, to opt out of it. So now you have government controlled healthcare, and they're starting to slowly put all these laws in where it's like third trimester abortion because of mental health. What it is now, the government controls the entire health industry, and they've justified themselves to basically, organ harvest and use all this nefarious, stuff under the guise of women's rights.
So where do you think people go under Trump's system when they can't get something done?
What, in health?
Where do you? Yeah, like so for example, I have a friend whose mom had to go to Mexico for a kidney transplant. In all honesty, it probably wasn't the safest. Like it was. But the problem was private insurance companies currently run our healthcare system. So now she has to put her life in danger by going to a less trained doctor because it's more affordable. And I'm not saying that human trafficking isn't an issue, but I feel like you're poking holes when we could really be saying, how do we address human trafficking as an issue? So that
we're doing that, but I'm just saying it's not like this thing I'm making up. It's happening now, and the reason no one cares about it is because they use these words: woman's choice, woman's right, healthcare. They've distracted people, and they're murdering babies. Like that's happening.
I see entire human rights movements. So instead of trying to attack another person's autonomy,
I'm not attacking.
No, I won't say, okay, so I won't use the word attack. That's unfair. Instead of questioning another person's autonomy, because that's what you're basically saying is whether or not they should be able to.
It's a debate. Yeah, it's questions.
Well, I'm talking about the women, though. We're talking about like their ability to choose whether or not to have a baby. Like, instead of talking about that, why don't we instead say, well, hold on, why are we even worried about this? Oh, well, human trafficking is an issue. Organ harvesting is an issue. So that's the bigger issue we need to discuss. So it's just like I saw your conversation about refugees the other day, and I agree with some of the things about knives and things like that in the UK. I agree with some of the things you said, but you still never got down to the actual issue that caused refugees to be there to begin with.
I've said it a bunch.
I mean, you might have. I didn't see it in that video, but you focus so much on refugees and progressives and leftist policies, but you didn't say, well, shit, if Great Britain was constantly working in concert with the United States that causes the displacement of these refugees, we wouldn't even be having this discussion to begin with.
I say that all the time, just not in that video. Pretty much.
I take your word for it, but I was just using that as an example because what I'm saying is, if we focus on the bigger problem, then it's likely that you and we can have a real debate about the substance rather than having a debate as to whether or not somebody's going to get human trafficked, which is something that seemingly have no control over, because we do get caught up in whether a woman has a right to abort rather than why the hell should we even have to have a second thought on our mind as to whether someone's child is going to get harvested. We shouldn't even have to worry about that. But we get so focused on heated left and right moral issues, we don't focus on the bigger picture.
That's what I'm saying. That's why we're here, though. And I agree. I mean, most right-wing people, they don't do that. And that's why no one listens to them. And vice versa. Nobody explains it to the left wing. I don't think you guys are nefarious or horrible, just like I don't think they're right. I think people get caught up in something and they don't realize what they're doing. And especially when you can't question it or have a discussion about it, then sometimes you're just in an echo chamber of, your own ideas where it's like they sound good, but that's why we're having this conversation. You know, it's not to blame or judge or hate, but it's like I genuinely don't think a lot of people on the left understand that particular issue, because it's not high on your guys' priority, which is okay. Everyone's got to worry about different stuff. But
that would say the left and the right don't understand it. I'll be honest with you.
Well, I'm saying abortion, a lot of right wingers understand that.
No, they don't understand it. They're arguing it as a talking point based off of religious conviction. That is the stupidest reason to defend anything ever. Just because you have religious conviction doesn't mean you have an understanding or of the issue. Like it's they're arguing it because their friend down the street argues it. Like it's just like the left. There are people who argue against women or pro-life because it's pop culture to a degree, and they arguing because their friend argued it. So like there is a lack of
that's what I just said. That's what I just said. That's literally.
Well, no, you said the left does this, and then the right understands it more, but they don't understand it more. All right, they don't.
Well, I said they both have bad strategies that nobody listens to both of them. But when it comes to abortion, I don't even know that it's debatable that the right seems to have a grasp on some of the more nefarious things they're doing with abortion than the left does. Like, that's just reality, Nico.
And using the Bible to justify it.
I'm not.
Like, if you want to talk about reality, Nico, this is the reality that I lived in.
Nico, you can't take a little nuance, bro. I'm not saying that every right winger has the right agenda. That's not, it's like listen, Nico, with
you're lobbying the left, saying I believe the right has an overall way better understanding of abortion.
Dude, there's things that if you listen to dude, there's things that the left wing, I feel like they understand, even though I'm not progressive, they understand more than the right wing. You don't got to scream and yell and start ranting and raving because you can't admit that that's something that they have slightly a better grasp on when it comes to
screaming and yelling around. You can
when it comes
project,
to you can't handle like a little self-account. I have no problem saying the right sucks at this, bro. That's not,
the thing is, I've noticed that you do this in your video too. You did the same thing in your Andrew Yang video. You did the same thing in your refugee video. Instead of actually addressing and making the link as to why you're right, you will try to ad hominem and attack the person's character or the group or the movement instead of actually linking and helping the person and your audience understand this is why I feel this way. If you want to feel that way, I have no problem with you feeling that way. But if you're, because that's what the debate is. You can debate, you can disagree, I can disagree. But give me a reason. Don't try it though. Don't project. Oh, you don't get upset at me like that because I disagree with you. No, give me the reason. I don't have a problem with
Nico, you were calm for like 10 minutes and you're freaking out. Listen, there's things that the left wing understands. There's all right, Nico. All right, Nico. No one's projecting. Nico. Let's take it back. Let's take it back to the level where you're.
Every time I ask you to prove your point, Nico, you get upset.
Nico, can we stay on topic? Nico, can we stay on topic? Listen. All right, I get it, Nico. I get it. You get mad every 10 minutes. Listen, Nico. All right, dude. All right, I'm saying this, and then you could go on and be done. Nico, the topic you're just on, bro. You're so annoying and unlikable when you get mad. Just be calm and rational again, and you're.
You're unlikable because you do sheerly stupid things.
Nico, listen, Nico. All right, we're gonna stay on topic. Nico, dude, this is, dude.
I'm not gonna attack you personally.
I'm not, dude. Nico, listen.
So don't tell me, don't
listen. What I said. This is the whole reason, dude. The whole reason you're even, dude.
The whole reason I'm even what? Go ahead, please tell me. Please tell me. Go ahead, tell me what I'm even. Please, go ahead.
The reason that you're what? Dude. Are you serious? The reason that you're freaking, dude, every time I say something, you interrupt me.
I'm saying, dude, just tell me.
The reason that you're upset right now is because I explained for other topics. I'm going to start with a compliment, like a baby. The progressives understand and care about certain topics. There's certain topics that progressives spend a lot of time focused on. It's just true. When it comes to the nefarious part of abortions, conservatives in general, they understand it better than progressives. That I'm talking about that specific. I just told you the nefarious and the downsides to abortion. Conservative. That's. I mean, it's not even really debatable. It's like me saying there's certain things when it comes to Saudi Arabia. When it comes to Saudi Arabia, I would say that progressives understand it more than conservatives. I don't say that no conservatives understand it. Rand Paul.
I hear conservatives all the time railing against Saudi Arabia. That's what I'm trying to you can't just say things and because of your limited scope and experience and your limited interactions in your echo chamber.
I'm just saying, say 90% of progressives care about it and maybe 50 to 40% of conservatives. I'm not saying that it's not. I'm just saying my analysis on it is that most progressives almost all in unison believe that. And it's more of a split on the right wing. And that's what it is, Nikko. It's not something to get mad about or scream about or cry about or interrupt me for 10 minutes. I'm not saying that liberals don't have an argument,
Okay,
and that there's conservative Christians who can't listen to you, dude. It's just like,
that's the last time you're gonna try to ad hominem attack me, because then I'm going on your character. I'm really trying to not do that.
I'm not doing that. I'm just saying
no. The more facts I use, the more you want to whine and talk about I cry and you're
No.
upset, you're offended, and we just talked about how much we hate social justice
But
warriors.
can you say this rationally? Can you say it?
We just had a discussion about how we don't like when social justice warriors try to lob ad hominem attacks to avoid discussing facts. You've been doing that all day. So if you want to talk about facts, we can do that. If you have an issue with the way I'm presenting myself, there's a way you can talk about that. But you want to talk about I'm a crybaby and all this other stuff, we can get into the personal attacks, but I'm trying not to do that. So let's keep it professional. If you don't like when I cut you off, say it. But don't attack my character, because I will retaliate. So let's keep it civil.
All right. I'm not going to attack. I think you're excellent. I think when you get emotional and angry, it's very unlikable and it's not very rational. And how you're acting now, you're saying I'm not a crybaby, but you're yelling. It's like, it's very weird.
I'm not somebody's yelling. That's once I already explained to you. My mic is really good. I know you got the snowball, but this mic is good. Trust me, you haven't heard your
mic. It's your personality.
You haven't heard me yell. I project. I've been in debate my entire life, so I know how to use my diaphragm to project. Just because I'm not introverted and speak under my breath, because I don't really know what the hell I'm talking about, like you. So I could pretend to be calm.
I'm not introverted. I'm just calm. I don't.
My point is, do not tell me that I'm crying when you're literally whining because I asked you to prove a fact, and you, oh my God, you go to Google. Oh my God, I can't believe you went to Google. Bruh, that's silly and it's childish. You're whining because I'm presenting facts, and when I ask you to dispute them, you don't know how to, so you then lob another ad hominem attack. It's very Ben Shapiro-ish, even though you just got done complaining about him. So if you have a disagreement, we can focus on the disagreement. If we have a disagreement about a fact, we can just focus on the disagreement about the fact. But if you want to lob ad hominem, don't do it. Because I'm getting this close to going in, and I don't want to do that. I want to keep this civil. It's been a good conversation. We both learned a lot. I want to move on and have a civil discussion after this at some point. But if you keep doing the ad hominem attacks, I'm gonna go in, and I really do not want to do that. So let's focus on the substance.
Nikko, there's no attacks. I mean, maybe you don't want to, but now I'll open up the floor. Like, is there anything that you want to say in a calm manner and not spend 20 minutes like getting mad at? Because it wasn't an attack on progressives or liberals. I just feel like, and you could disagree and be like, I think, I actually think that liberals understand it better. There's a way to say it, and there's a way to not.
I asked you, where'd you get it from? I didn't say whether or not I agreed or not. I just said
this is like a waste of time. Like, is there anything you want to?
Where you get your logic from? That's a waste of time. Because if that's the waste of time, then we don't need to be talking anyway. Because every time I ask you that, it's a waste of time. It doesn't make any sense.
I explained about abortions and Saudi Arabia, how I felt. I don't understand what you're getting at. But is there anything you want to say, like in a respectful, calm manner, that we could talk about? Because I don't understand like wasting 10 minutes on something that we probably pretty much agree on, but I don't know. It's not that, yeah. Like, is there anything?
Because I'm trying to understand where the hell your logic is coming from.
Yeah, but you don't even let me say, all right, do I need to repeat it for the third time, dude? Like, we're talking about nothing. I said,
where'd you get?
I think conservatives understand them.
Weren't you just whining about whining? Weren't you whining about interrupting? So live your life. Live it how you want to be. Live it how you want others to live it. Let me finish. I asked you a question after I let you finish your statement on abortion, because I was trying to see, okay, maybe he's going to have a point to this. And you didn't prove anything. You just made a circular argument saying, like, oh, leftists are better on Saudi Arabia, therefore my point is true. Like,
all right, no, my point is true, because when it comes to, all right, Nikko, you had a minute and a half. Here's my 10 seconds. The right understands, is what I said. I was just giving you an example because I thought it'd be easier to understand for you. The right understands the nefarious parts of abortion, such as how late they're going and how the mental health part of the bill makes it very, very sketchy, not just to save someone's life. I don't even know that it's really that controversial to say that the right cares about that stuff more, understands it, and obviously, protests and talks about it, which is why I brought it up to you. Because even when I brought it up, you're like, you know what? Yeah, I'll look into that. Like, I don't agree with that part of it or that part of it, but here's what I think. That's great. I don't want you to think like me. I don't want you to agree with everything I think of abortion. I just wanted you to hear about that and see what you thought. And it turns
But
out you're not really for third trimester abortion, which is dope. That's what I
yeah,
want. I'm just saying
that's
it
not what our
seems like in
discussion was
that
about.
area, that's something that conservatives spend more time looking into. Not all aspects of abortion. I'm saying specifically that element of the bill and that element of how late that they're really going and slowly pushing for what I believe is not to help a woman, but to potentially harvest the parts or push some other, who knows what they're doing. I don't know. I'm willing to discuss it. I'm willing to hear your thing, but there's a difference between talking about it and hearing a counter argument. And like, that's all I'm saying. It's not a knocking progressives or
I
liberals.
understand that, but when I asked you to help me understand where your logic is to justify you making that claim, I don't even care if you feel that way. Like that's not a really that's not of any consequence to me. I don't care how you feel about it. What I want to know is what facts and logic have led you to get there. And every time I do that, for some reason, you take it very personally. And I don't get it.
Dude,
I
I've
don't know if
taken
it's
nothing, bro. I've taken nothing.
you
It's
do.
all on camera,
You,
bro. I've
told me,
taken nothing personally.
you told me
I
to
don't
Google
like.
something. You said, "Oh, you can Google it or ask Sanders." I said, "Okay, cool." So I literally Googled it and went to the Sanders Institute. And oh, that's so stupid. You look silly. Your logic is inconsistent, and it's like some insecurity that you have when somebody asks you to logically explain something, and when you can't do it, you attack people. I don't like that because I haven't attacked you. And I didn't say one negative word about you until you started lobbying attacks against me. And I don't, and I know you're better than that. Everything Pasta has told me, I know you're better than that. So don't lob ad hominem attacks up at me, and I won't do the same. If I ask you something for logic, it's because I'm trying to understand how you got to your conclusion. If I think you're wrong, it's inconsequential. If your logic is sound, I'm like, oh, I don't agree with it. Cool, we can move on. And move on in respectful disagreement versus when I ask you about where you came from logically and how you got there, and then you taking it personally. But
Nikko,
how am I supposed to understand?
Nikko,
That's what I'm trying to.
This is all on camera. And just to be honest, the past 40 minutes, I've taken literally nothing personally. I literally could care less personally about anything. And you've taken every single thing I've said personally. Nikko, that
makes perfect sense. That's such a coherent sentence.
I've not once mentioned my personality or you attacking me. You've done it 20 times, and it's all on camera.
I've attacked you 20 times.
Honestly, no, I don't. I'm saying you're saying I'm taking everything personally. There's not a single thing I've taken. I don't care. I don't care what you think about me personally or say. You've literally said a couple times in the past couple minutes that you think I'm attacking your character when I'm not. So I'm just
you care greatly what people think
on camera.
Like, you literally you move as the wind blows. Like you care what people think about you, and that's fine. I don't really care about that. What I care about is if you want to have a debate, let's have the debate.
No, I'm just saying everything you just like. It's all good. It's on camera. Is there anything, Nikko? Is there anything you want to say? Like any points or anything close to your heart, politically, socially?
So what I would like to say is, anytime that anybody is engaging in political discourse, when someone asks you to factually prove your point in any situation, I saw this with Ben Shapiro when he debated Jane. When Hassan Piker debated, what's that dumbass's name? Charlie Kirk. I don't even like Hassan Piker, but whenever Hassan Piker asked him to prove something about quote unquote socialism, and I'm not a socialist, but whenever he asked Charlie Kirk got so offended, he stands up and starts yelling and lobbing attacks because he asked him to prove something. If you can't justify or prove when someone's asking you so they can better understand your argument, then why even have convictions? Why even argue your point if you're not willing to prove it without getting upset? When you ask me to prove something, or anybody asks me to prove something for that matter, every debate I've ever been in my entire life, I don't get upset. I'm like, okay, shit. I mean, if I said it, it's because I have a reason behind it. It's because I looked at statistics. Somebody said Trump is better. Like, for example, somebody said the economy is better under Trump. I say, well, how do you figure? If they strongly feel that way, they'll likely quote unemployment numbers. And I can respect that more than look at what I'm just seeing around me. I'm just saying this. Look at what Obama did. Look at this. No, like show me the proof. And then we can move on with a civil discussion. But if you don't want to do that and you want to pander to your audience, you want to pander to what you think sounds right, you want to pander, then there's no discussion to be had. I would love to have a civil discussion.
I love it, Nikko. I appreciate you, and I'm glad we agree on something, that you shouldn't get angry, you shouldn't get emotional and take things personally. I agree. That would definitely lead to a great debate, and we could, hopefully we could both do that and have a good debate. But I think a lot of the things you just said.
I don't have a
I think a
I
lot
don't
of the things you said, brother, I think you're like,
I
don't
think
get
that you're
angry, don't
projecting.
get emotional,
I think that you're
don't take things
projecting,
personally. Dude, this is like a therapy session now. It's like you're talking to
bruh.
yourself.
No, you're projecting. That's the problem. And you can go back when you want to go back and watch the video, whatever, because your fans and your comment section going to tell you what you want to hear. When I post it on my page, you're gonna get roasted in the same way, and it is
Dude,
what it is. But I'm not gonna take. I don't take what they say. I'm not gonna take that as an
I don't,
assassination of your character. I'm not gonna take this discussion as a judgment of your character. But if you want to have a civil debate and or any type of civil discourse in the future, then you need to understand that there is a responsibility that comes with hosting the page and listening. And especially if you claim you want civil discourse, somebody says, prove your point, just prove it. And then when somebody gives you a fact and you want to dispute the fact, use another fact. Don't say, oh, that's silly. Oh, that's silly. Oh, that's silly. Like, because that's what you did. That's
yeah,
all
all
I'm
right.
saying.
So we could watch it back and we could time who talked the most and who listened the least, which is fine. And Niko, the reason I brought you here truly is I do this whole debate platform. I don't have to do this. I could sit and talk to my own people. I have a lot of really tough debates outside of this, that Zionism, this, that. I do it all because I want to get the discussion flowing. I want people to hear your points. And even on a lot of stuff with foreign policy, I don't disagree with you. And I want somebody, I mean, I'm going to have Cassandra Fairbanks on tomorrow to talk about Julian Assange. I don't talk about it a lot because I can't cover everything, but she can, and she knows a lot. So she's going to be on here to talk about Julian Assange. You were on here. I wanted to hear what you thought. I wanted to hear some policies. I wanted to agree and disagree. I have a lot of progressive friends. Everyone's different. Everyone debates in different ways, but I like a good, I do think that a lot of the truth isn't black and white or left or right. There's a lot of nuance to it and a lot of, things that both sides need to hear. And I'm constantly doing that to both sides.
100,
So
100% true. I couldn't agree more. I just think that it would be a much better approach if you stop generalizing and then attacking and telling what this side doesn't understand and this side understands, when, to be honest with you, most people in general don't understand half the shit that we've just discussed.
I
Like
I don't disagree, but I call out conservatives a lot. When I do it, I'm not calling out everyone. Even like you're like the libertarians don't do that. I was like, good, like attack libertarians all you want. I don't. It doesn't bother me in the slightest. And I'm not even saying like attack. Just say what you want. But I say it because I notice a pattern even on the conservative side. Does every conservative agree with this? No, but I can at least see that 30 to 70% do. So
that's
it's
a
like,
big ass jump.
well, that I mean, I'm not gonna be like a pew poll and take 800 people and be like, I know who's gonna win the election. They clearly don't. So I do a big, because it's like, I don't know. Maybe it's it's, I'm not gonna pretend like I'm 100% sure.
We don't know. Like
Yeah,
we cannot
it doesn't.
quantitatively know.
I just want to say,
So
yeah.
generalizing is what I'm saying.
And I just want to say, I don't just do it to you. Obviously, I feel certain ways, you feel certain ways, but I call out conservatives all the time, and I'm one of the only ones who do that. So it's not really purposely generalizing. It's just like, hey, if this is the team everyone's on, y'all got to hear this now. And if you already know it, that's fine. And if you don't, you don't. And if someone else needs to hear it, that's fine. It's just like, I'm giving it to the team, to the squad. Take what you want. And trust me, when I say things that the conservative movement doesn't want to hear, sometimes I've posted things where 95% of my audience disagrees with me. 95%. But I'll still say it. I don't have to pander or do anything. I do what I want. And I wanted to bring you here for that reason, to get your message out there, to have a friendly debate. And I agree with you on, personal attacks, angers, and emotions. Definitely doesn't really help anything. And I guess that's what I was trying to say. And maybe at certain times in a way that didn't resonate. But that's what I was trying to get back to, because I wouldn't have you here to just yell or to get yelled at,
If you feel like I attacked you personally,
No, I don't. I don't care. I don't care.
Then I apologize.
Yeah.
That's unprofessional myself, and that's not what I came here to do either. So if you feel like that, I apologize.
Yeah, I appreciate it. But no, I don't even feel like you attacked me. I just feel like at times you got really emotional and cut off a lot. And the one time I did yell, which didn't need to, I was just like, yo, please let me talk after like 5 minutes of it. But it's all good. It is what it is. I don't take anything too personally, and it happens, but it's like, it's a sacrifice we need to take to get a discussion out there. It'd be a lot easier to just say the same 5 things on loop, but I bring you in, and it's like, regardless, we went through it. There's times that we probably both would have done stuff differently, but at the end of the day, the information's out there, and you got your message, and certain things I agreed with, disagreed with. But even with the abortion thing, I'm not claiming that the right wing knows everything and they're the best. I just think there's certain things the left needs to hear. And I brought you on because there's certain things I want the right to hear, And then they could, you know, it's nice to be like, oh, I never thought of it that way. That's always changed my life. I listen to people like Glenn Greenwald, Jimmy Dore. I don't agree with everything, but it's like they'll Glenn Greenwald covers stuff and Jimmy covers stuff that no right wingers do. So if I want to hear it, I got to go to Jimmy sometimes. And it's like I don't, you know, that's just what it is.
All right, man. Well, I appreciate you having me on. We'll have you on. We'll have you come over sometimes, especially as the election ramps up, and we can have some discussions over on our side too. So,
Any last message or any last words?
thanks. Just overall, thanks for having me on. Shout out to Pasta for getting everything set up. I wish you luck in your endeavors, and I'll see what I can do to help you get that Tulsi interview for you, man.
All right, yeah, I'll give her a fair interview. I'm not gonna like sabotage her. It's like, dude, I'll be way better than the media. I promise that. Thank you guys for listening. God bless you guys, and have a good week. Hopefully, you enjoyed it.
The Trump administration, military industrial complex, the fossil fuel companies, they all want to go into Venezuela and steal the oil because Venezuela has twice the amount of oil as Saudi Arabia. So that's a big deal. And so they're now manufacturing consent for this war in Venezuela or this coup. So they try to do a coup and then they'll do a war or an invasion. And this isn't anything new.